Hey, everybody. How are you doing this Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning or Saturday evening, depending on where you're at in the world today? So we've got a great show. Obviously, many of you have been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one. I've never actually had the chance to talk with Dan at length. And over the last couple of weeks, we've actually had plenty of time to chat. So that's been absolutely fun for me. I can't tell you. I've been teasing artwork from this because Dan's been sending me scans for the last couple months, and this is a show that I'm really excited for. And I can tell you, we've got a lot of art to look at. There's 45 pieces of art for sale, so we'll probably be only doing our interview for about 30 minutes or so. But let's go over the ground rules for the claim sale part of the show today. And pretty much the stuff that everybody's familiar with, but I'll remind everybody of some of the nuances and changes that we have going forward with this show and future artist sale shows as well. So claims will happen in the chat, unlike the way we used to do the artist claim shows where you would email in your claim. They will happen in the chat. And one thing everybody needs to remember, if you're familiar with Dueling Dealers, when you post your claim in the chat, you may not see it ordered in the exact proper ordering that we see it here in the studio and that everyone else sees it but you. It's a nuance that YouTube or Facebook does that it's just kind of how it works. But I can guarantee you that we see everything in the proper order here in the studio. So we will be the final arbiter of who has claimed an artwork if there are multiple people trying to claim the same artwork. Now, after the show, I need you to send me an email, bill@comicartfans.com. I'll have everything written down as far as which pieces you've gotten, but please include a list of the pieces that you picked up. And when you do that, include your mailing address. It just makes everything a lot easier for me to have that up front. Payment will need to be made in 48 hours of the invoice, which will happen this afternoon after the show is over. If you are paying with credit card in any way, whether it's a credit card or PayPal, there will be a service fee now. This is new, 4% US, 5.5% international. There will be no fee with Zelle payments, and I'm very willing to work with anyone who needs to come up with an alternative, whether it's a check or you want to drop by my house and give me cash. I don't care, but we will work it out for those of you who'd prefer to avoid that. I'd like to avoid that as well, but we will do that as long as everything is done promptly. We would need to have a payment structure in place by Monday at the very least, and something that would have to be able to be cleared within by the following Friday, because we like to close the books on each of these shows within a week's time. And as far as shipping and handling goes, the art prices do not include shipping and handling. We do combine, of course, your orders with shipping and handling. So domestic is $30 and international will be $65. I am handling all of the fulfillment. We do ship everything really, really nicely. Of course, I've cut my own masonite and everything. So I can guarantee you that we haven't had anything damaged in any shipment that I've done ever. Fingers crossed. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? I know Dan is actually at a convention today, but he's not right now, so he can hang out with us. So let's see what Dan is up to. Hey, reading a copy of a classic Avengers book.
Some of the best Michael Golden artwork. Oh my goodness.
Dan, you're not going to believe this, Dan. Your mic was fine the whole time, and now it's like squelchy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were talking for 15 minutes and had no problems.
Hold on, let me get closer and see what happens.
No, it's not. What I would do is back out and come back in. How's that? Because, yeah, that's so weird. I mean, everything was perfect, and now we're live, and it's not perfect.
Oh, weird. How is it now?
It's the same thing. It's like you got like a cup over your mouth, and it's like you're on a loudspeaker.
Oh, that's so weird.
I know. It was fine. Everything was perfect. And yes, everybody's shouting that the first Rogue book. So yes, classic Michael Golden art.
Damn.
Yeah,
okay, so still not good.
No, what I would say, click that leave studio button on the bottom there,
okay.
and then come back in. I bet you that'll fix it. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. You guys know I have been waiting anxiously for this one myself, and it was fun because every week I would get an email with new scans from Dan. 4 or 5 pieces every week, and each piece was incredible. I mean, he's literally done 38 pieces just for this show, and then we've got another 7 that are some published pieces that you might have seen before. So let's see. All right, how are you sounding, Dan?
I'm back.
Yes, we got it. All right.
Awesome.
That is perfect. So wonderful.
Way.
Yes.
This is
Yes, you
the
can't do that while
only
we're
comic
talking.
book stuff on my end you're gonna see. I don't have my studio behind me, so this is it. This is the extent of my, who I don't know. All right, I'm putting that away.
So you're at WonderCon this weekend. Who's manning the table while you're away?
Actually, this year I don't have a table.
Oh,
I was planning on going this year, and um, obviously I had this to do, and I was going to do it from my studio, which I would have preferred to do, and I would have preferred everyone to see all that. But I got an invitation to just come out and hang out with a friend, one of my best friends, who was doing the show. And he kind of made it an offer I couldn't refuse. He said, "You can stay in my room. I'll use my my frequent flyer miles to fly you out, and we'll just hang." And I did this last year too. But last year I got a table last minute. And this year I thought, I'm just going to walk around and just enjoy not having that stress of having to be at a table and all that other stuff. So I brought a little book of originals with me, but I haven't brought them down to the floor. And I don't know what I would do if I did. So yesterday I had a great time. I sat and talked with a couple of comic book sellers who I bought some stuff from for like an hour. We just sat on the convention floor and just talked about comics for an hour. And that felt more like a comic convention than, do you know what I mean? It was just great.
Of course.
So, visit a lot of people and talked to artists and met some artists that I had never met before. And it was very relaxing. Definitely.
Well, that's great when you don't have to work at a show. I mean, that doesn't happen too often. You get to be a fan yourself.
No, really, it doesn't. I mean, I've done a lot. I've been doing shows locally in the Northern California area, all from January all the way up till like last weekend in Sacramento, and then I'll be doing more. I'll be at the Como show in May, and so really, to be honest, I'm not like a convention hound. I like going where I'm invited. I like going to places I've never been to. Last year I did Memphis and Baltimore for the first time. Those were amazing. So I just, if it sounds intriguing and I'm invited, I mean, I'll be a trip in Connecticut this summer, and that's too. So yeah.
Well, I have a show next February. We'll have to talk about that, Dan.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to. I haven't been to Florida in years, so
well,
for sure.
February's a good time to come out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, and hey, Jill Loudon just mentioned that you can join Dan's Patreon to be able to see his studio. And I can let everybody know the Patreon link for Dan is in the show description. So for those of you who don't already follow and support Dan on Patreon, please do. What do you do on Patreon? I know you have some art updates. You do a few, you post some stuff in advance that people will get to see there. And what other rewards do you do for people who are on Patreon?
Well, first, I want to say thank you to Jill, and probably Casey's there too, and anyone else who's from my Patreon group who logged in today. Thank you. It's great to see you. Basically, what I do on Patreon is I try and share as much of my studio and what I'm doing in there as I can with the patrons. When I'm working on something, I do progress shots, so you can see a whole process gallery of what I'm doing, and I'll make comments on things. A lot of the pieces that I did, especially for this show, my patrons have seen, I would say, 80% of it. And when I do live chats with them periodically, I will show what's going on in the studio, what I'm working on. I'll field questions. I just try. When I started it, I was kind of just jumping in with both feet and just tried to sort of give back whatever I felt made sense. And it's become a daily part of my life now. So I post, I don't know if I post every day, but they'll tell you I post a lot. What is Jill saying? It's the best Patreon account I've seen.
You're really active, and you just said that too. Yeah. You're on there almost daily, keeping people updated. I mean, that's fantastic. And it's a lot of work to do those Patreons. I've been a member on a few of them, and sometimes you get regular updates, and sometimes there's gaps of a month or so. But no, if you're active, that makes it all the better.
I've never had a gap of more than a few days. I don't want to inundate people. I mean, when I first started, I felt like the need to really give people the value, and so I was posting every day. And sometimes I'll find a piece of art that I don't think people have seen in a while. And there's a lot of stuff out there I've done that I did before I owned a scanner. So I don't even have a scan of these things. I don't have a picture of these things. And sometimes I'll see it on the internet. Occasionally, someone will send me a good scan of something. I've even had one artist, a collector, who owned one of my Conan covers from the 90s, from the early 90s. And I'd always been bothered by some part of Conan's anatomy on the painting. And I found it on Comic Art Fans, and I contacted him. Would you consider sending that painting to me so I can fix that shoulder, and then I can see it, and then I'll send it back? And he did. Couldn't believe it. And so I fixed it, and I sent it back, and it was in my last art book. It's called By the Blade. It's all kind of sword and sorcery type, subject matter. That was my last Kickstarter last year, and that was amazing. Sometimes someone will have a piece of artwork that they've owned for a really long time, and they want to sell it for whatever reason, and occasionally I will help them do that. Because maybe I can reach more people. And I try and stay engaged with people. I'm not elusive.
No, that's great. So you don't mind, you enjoy the fans. I mean, especially those who when they're supporting you. I mean, that they care and they're very interested in your career.
Yeah, that's one thing too. Like to have that feedback. It's not. I mean, I got it on Facebook and stuff like that. But then you start seeing your work everywhere. The minute I do a commission for someone, unless I'm very clear about, hey, can you hold this back from Comic Art Fans for a while because I want to surprise people with it later. And people are usually very good about that. But usually if I forget to ask that, it shows up, and then I'm seeing it on Pinterest or something, very, very soon after. And there's part of you that wants to have a little control over the image, since the image does still belong to you. Now, the artwork doesn't anymore, but the image still does, the copyright and all that. And so sometimes I'll do a piece and I'll ask them to kind of, hold it back. And some people are very, very anxious about showing it off. They'll be contacting me every month. Can I show it? Can I show it? Can I show it? Which is really cool. And it's great to have the social media interaction, but Patreon is like it's very special to me. And it's meant a lot to me. And there's, I have between 80 and 90 patrons right now, and quite a few of them get commission pieces from me because I keep the slots to a minimum. As much, I try and open them as much as I can to accommodate people, but I don't want to be overworked. And then everything's about Patreon, and I can't work on other stuff. Like I'm working on a Nocturnals graphic novel now that is penciled. It's 96 pages. The covers are penciled. There's two covers because there's two different variations, but all 96 pages are penciled, and I just have to paint it. And I started finally painting it in December, and I'm not that far along. I think I've got about 6 finished, but I'm trying to find more time to squeeze that in to finish it. And then eventually I'll run a Kickstarter for a hardcover edition. But because of the Patreon stuff and the Kickstarter stuff, my time is limited. And to be honest, after having done comics work and freelance work for over 20 years, and have been in this game for over 30 years, commission stuff doesn't really, I used to look at it as like filler, but now I really look forward to doing things that I've not done before. And this art show gave me another opportunity to do characters that I'd always wanted to do and I had never done before. And yeah, I mean, there's stuff in there that maybe isn't as eye candy as say, oh, well, he did this popular character, that popular character. I did that, but then I did some other surprises, which really I got a kick out of. So working on commissions for people when it's something that they're excited about and I'm excited about is just pure fun. It's rather than being locked into some deadline where you're doing a certain amount of pages and you're trying to do it in a short amount of time and not always for a great amount of money, so I can't complain about that. I'm enjoying. It's not retirement. I'll probably never retire, but it is enjoyable.
Sean says you're not lying about anything.
Sean, thanks, Sean. If I left anything out, please let us know. Because
question for you then is: do you open your commission lists to the Patreon first? Is that kind of the typical approach that you do, or do you have a mailing list, or how do you usually do that?
Okay, so sorry, I need to let you ask the questions before I start answering them. Um, when I first started the Patreon in 2019, it was my goal to manage all my commission work through Patreon. So then I would be able to really be organized, and I wouldn't have too many big kind of overblown ones to do, because sometimes people will say, I want, they'll have some special idea with several figures or concepts, and then it takes a while to get to it. So they could be waiting a year or two for it. I did a Herculoids piece years ago, and the folks that commissioned this big piece with all the Herculoids, the family and the monsters and the background. This thing was 16 by 20 at least. It took me 5 years to finish it, and I don't like making people wait that long, whether they're patient or not. There was another collector who cryptic Marvel characters, and he said, you can do what Marvel characters you choose to do is up to you. I just want Spider-Man, Iron Man, and I think Captain America or something like that. Everybody else in the triptych you can choose. So I did that, but it took me a few years to get to it. And by the time I got to it, he forgot it. Literally forgot. And I did finish it. It just took too long, And so with the Patreon stuff, it's one character. It's either 8x5 color, or like say a 7x10 sketch. The color 8x5 is ink drawing that's been watercolored in. It's pretty quick, but or a 11x14 or 10x14 single character watercolor, or the biggest tier is called the Rogue tier. In the Rogue tier, you get 11x17 or 12x16 single character painting, and I keep a rein on how many I'm going to allow myself to do, and it's hard because there's people in there who want to be on one tier. Some people are on a tier where there's no artwork, but what they get is they get access to everything I post, and I do a kind of an annual every year, like a digital art book annual. And the people who are only there's one tier that's like I think $2 a month. I think that one closed. It's called the Creeper, for people who just want to kind of lurk and see what you're doing. And then the $5 one is called Haunt. Again, it's for people who kind of just want to lurk, and they're not necessarily involved in chatting with me and stuff, but whatever they want to do. And that one you get along with all the higher tiers, like a 50 or 60 page digital art book, which is kind of annual. And I used to do a postcard for a lot of people, but that got really tedious and hard to keep up with. So the postcard goes to certain tiers. I used to do a print for certain tiers. I don't do that so much anymore. Your time starts to become so much more valuable, and I don't want to have to erase tiers, write in a new price for them. You know what I mean? So there's people who I call legacy members who are at the same price tier that they were in 2019, but I can't keep it up forever. And everyone understands that. Everyone's been very good about that, so try to do what I can. As far as the other commissions I do, like if I'm doing a show I've never been to, like Como or Memphis or something, I'll have people who contact me just out of the blue, and they'll say, I want to do a pre-show commission, and I try and keep a small number of those things, and other people will squeeze in here and there, but to be honest, I really do try and keep that down to something that I can handle and organize through Patreon. And in the pre-show commissions, I'll have like a cap. For Como, I think the cap right now is 5 pre-shows, and it might go up to 10 if I find the time. But if I do those extra 5, it means less time working on Nocturnals. So
right,
it's a trade-off.
We want you staying focused on that. Similar to that. Well, first, let me thank Ken Carter here. He said thanks for bringing another amazing artist with a super chat. But Chris Spanabel had a question for you. He said, "Do you paint over your pencils for a project like that?" Because when you were talking about the Nocturnals, you said that you had already got the pencils done for many of the pages. So do you actually paint over the pencils as well? Okay.
Yeah, I do. The penciling. I started out doing watercolor over pencils when I was doing my original art. And so I do the layouts and everything, and I work it all out elsewhere. And then the penciling frees up.
Uh-oh. Your internet's getting a little choppy on us, Dan.
Penciling thing up. Damn it. Yeah.
That
I might have to
internet.
leave and come back, but
Well, let's roll with it until it gets to
yeah.
where it doesn't work too well, because it's normal.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. So good.
So
Answer that question, because we didn't really get a final answer from you.
yeah. Oh, okay. So I do paint over pencils. I try and keep the pencils very simple, and let the paint do the work, the hard part. Well, the hard part is actually the layouts and getting everything on paper. The painting is the fun part, because you're going in and you're modeling and you're refining and you're retooling and you're finishing things, and you've already laid groundwork for it. We try and keep the groundwork, which is the pencils, simple, and let the paint do its job. So I do paint right over my pencils and not copies.
Interesting. So you keep it pretty loose when you're doing the pencil stages. I mean, you're just trying to get the forms and shapes and general concepts down, and then the painting. When you paint, you really dive into it.
The loose stuff is when I'm doing my layouts on, like, say, a composition book like this, you know, and I just do the pages, and it's very terse. It's almost a shorthand. I don't go in and do any detail. It's really shapes, shapes and movement, and moving the story along. And then I'll make notes, and I'll kind of color code sometimes who the characters are and stuff like that. And then it's time to, and then I shoot reference with people, model, friends, family, whoever, and like them. And it's almost like doing a shoot, you know, and I explain what's going on in the story. And that way I have that extra sort of illustration-y kind of feel to things, and not so much comic, cartoony kind of feel. But then when it comes time to putting it on paper, it's a melding of the two. It's sort of the reality and the structure of working from life or photography. So you have, you know, strong lighting and angles and things like that, and then being able to kind of embellish it with my more expressionistic style. So it really also helps me kind of delineate certain characters. Like, if I have characters who are fantastic are easy. Characters who are real people, I think they require sensitivity, and it helps to be able, like, my dad is a very distinguished looking guy. He's been in a lot of my books. And I have, you know, and I can make him look older or younger, you know, slightly different. And I have over the years, and there's other people like that too. And so it's kind of fun. It is a kind of aspect of illustration that I picked up in art school, but I'm still very based in sort of the comic book sort of style of working. I mean, so I learned in art school and in over time to kind of meld them together into something that makes me happy. You know.
Sure. Now, I mean, obviously, I think you've been drawing monsters most of your life, one way or another. You know, when did you gravitate towards painting as your go-to, you know, outlet in terms of your creativity? You know, because so many, you know, that's not the path most illustrators, let alone comic book illustrators, take.
Yeah, you're right. I definitely wanted, I mean, for a long time in my youth, I mean, going back to being 8 or 9 years old and discovering comics for the first time. And I really fell in love with the medium, and with, in particular, the sort of alternate reality that is Marvel Comics, especially as created by Kirby and everyone who followed in the next 10 or 20 years, and how they created really this alternate reality that you could escape into. And I didn't look at it that way as a kid, but I see it that way now. And I really wanted to be part of that world somehow. And I loved stories, loved reading stories, loved telling stories and creating characters. And monsters that's the first thing you draw, because no one can tell you that your monster's wrong or you're doing it wrong. It's straight out of your imagination. And superheroes followed after that. And I think I must have come to some realization in high school that I wasn't going to be an inker, because I just like a hand at that point. But that was when, in high school, when I started to kind of be more exposed to, like, the work of Frank Frazetta, what was going on in heavy metal, even Epic Illustrated, and seeing that sort of work really inspired me, not so much to paint in high school, because there really wasn't anyone to teach me how to do that. Even my arts students, I had good art teachers in high school, but not really hands-on about painting. And so what I did was I bought a little watercolor set, and I would do my ink drawings with a rapidograph. And then I would color them in.
I remember those.
And
I did too.
And I like the way the rapidograph worked, moved on the paper, and it, you know, I tried dip pens and quill pens and, you know, that kind of stuff. I couldn't make it really work, and the rapidograph was just easy. So I used that for a long time in high school. It wasn't until I was in art school, I went in the fall of 85. California College of Arts and Crafts in Oakland, and they had teachers who were saying, okay, it's clear you like comics, set that aside and just study, you know, what we're trying to teach you. And it was life drawing, painting, watercolor class, design, and, you know, other things. And then I got into the illustration. I was an illustration major, and this is where I was exposed to N.C. Wyeth, Dean Cornwell, Mead Schaefer, Heinrich Klei. You know, I still love Frazetta, but you start to see that Frank Frazetta wasn't the beginning and end. There's all these people that came before and after. You start to be exposed to advertising illustration and editorial illustration that goes back to the pulp era, and it just exploded. You know, I remember thinking before I started painting this Batman Superman book in the early 90s, which is called Legends of the World's Finest, I thought, wow, it would be great if I could do a Batman Superman story that looked like it was all Dean Cornwell had painted it. And of course I wasn't going to be able to do that, not Dean Cornwell, but it was the inspiration. That was the inspiration for me, was to do a fully painted story. And people have said, oh, you know, your stuff reminds me of Norman Saunders, because Saunders was one of the few people who was actually painting superhero stuff with those Batman trading cards. Right. And I love those too. One of the things that really pushed me toward painting big time was 1988. I had just done my first penciling job for Eclipse Comics. It was a backup story, and they weren't too impressed with it. I wasn't impressed with it. And I remember I was in San Diego for the first year, and it didn't look like Eclipse was going to hire me back. And I was still in art school. I was about to go into my last year of art school. And I was wandering through Artist Alley, and this is back when San Diego was basically 2 big rooms in one hall, or one lobby. And there was one section of Artist Alley where all these painter guys were, and there was Kent Williams and Dave McKean, George Pratt, and Jay Muth were there. And Jay had his work that he was working on, and had worked on. He and Kent had done the Havoc Wolverine book. Working on Enemy Ace still. Dave McKean was working on Black Orchid, and I looked at these big pages of what they were working on, and it just blew me away. And I remember asking Kent Williams, and I know we have to wrap this up. I remember asking Kent Williams, you do all this stuff on one page. What happens if you screw up a panel? And he said, well, you just got to work on it until it's right again. Yeah, but this is my insecure art student minds. I said, what if you can't make it work? He goes, you just have to live it. And I was just like, oh. So I got really dejected. I went home a day early. I didn't even tell my friends. I took an early flight home. I was so depressed. But later on in the next one of my great teachers, Kazuhiko Sano, was a great illustrator. He illustrated the Return of the Jedi movie posters and stuff like that. He did covers. He gave us this semester project that we could do on our own over the weekend. And I said, I'm going to do painted comic book pages. And I did 7 of them from, August, September, all the way up to December. I had 7 painted pages. I worked the crap out of those things. And those became the first 7 pages of the Black Terror book that I would eventually do right after. I showed those pages to my editor at Eclipse. He showed them to Kat and Dean, and they came back to me like 2 weeks later and said, get started. Let's do it. And so in my last semester of art school, I was working on this comic book painted thing. And that's the beginning. And I think by the time I was out of art school that last semester, I was already hooked up to do the Psycho with DC. Mm-hmm. So it was a weird transition, going from feeling like maybe I might make it to get work, so crazy.
So, and that with that question you posed to Kent Williams about, when you screw something up, I mean, do you think that might have influenced why Pratt did like Wolverine, the Natsuki book, where he painted all the panels separately and then that were kind of composited later? I mean, maybe his approach was, if I screw something up, I'm just going to get another piece of paper and start over.
That's a really good point. I I remember talking to George and seeing those pieces, and I didn't ask him because it's just a weird question to ask. Hey, were you worried about screwing up? But I mean, there are John Van Fleet, I think, worked that way too, to a certain degree at some point. It was more manageable to work on one panel at a time, and then maybe and then they're selling the originals one panel at a time. I considered doing that, but to be honest, I'm kind of a dyed-in-the-wool traditional comic book nerd. So to me, the way the old masters did it, or the masters do it, is to do it on one page, because the page is the finished piece. Yes, you could cut it out, but I feel like I need to be working on all the panels on the page together as a unit at the same time, because I move around and I want it to all come together. I want the colors to come together. I don't want there to be a distraction of color in one panel that doesn't flow with the others, if that makes sense, unless there's a reason for it. So I really do try and look at the page as one illustration in a group of, and the story itself is the bigger project, and they all come together in the end. So that is definitely important to me.
Well, that's good. I mean, we as collectors, we'll go either way, right? But at the end of the day, I think we all like to be able to hold that finished piece that's the sequential storytelling on one board, rather than having multiple pieces that make it up. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. And I can see for you as a painter, I mean, you really need to be looking at it in that way, because I couldn't even imagine you trying to do each panel separately. It just wouldn't work. But being able to see, from a color standpoint, and trying to get that flow and the color choices just right, you could never work like that. So I really appreciate the fact that you work on a single board for that purpose, because most collectors, at least today, are still very traditionalists in what we like to buy, right? I mean, 20 years from now, who knows, right? But where things will be. But today, most of us have grown up on that, and we're very appreciative that you work that way.
Well, another thing is, when I'm working like that, I'm managing all the color kind of at once. So I start out with this, I ask myself, okay, so what is the predominant temperature of light? Is it a daytime scene? Is it a nighttime scene? Is it cool light? Is it warm light? And then a whole wash of that color, it's orange or blue, it's usually orange or blue. Sometimes it's purple, depends, or lavender or whatever. We'll go over almost the entire panel. I tape off the borders with a thin white border tape. Everything gets taped down to a board so that the buckling is kept to a minimum and the warping. And I just kind of go in washes. And that way you're covering all your whites, and your colors are more analogous, and they work together better than if you just said, okay, blue sky, green Hulk, brown ground. The colors have to be in there together. In other words, I don't paint, if I paint Captain America, by the way, painting super takes forever, because they're all primary colors, and you can't necessarily go in and kind of get jiggy, because he's blue and thing.
Hey, Dan, your internet's stuttering on us again. I hate to say it, but maybe do the log out and log back in. And while you're doing that, I'll go over the ground rules once more for everybody. And as far as the way we're going to do the claim sale show, and we can get started showing off the artwork, because we've got a lot of people in the audience right now, and I know you're very anxious to see the pieces that we've got. So just to go over everything one last time for you, claims are going to happen in the chat. Just remember that if multiple people try to claim the same artwork at the same time, your browser may not order your chat in the same order that I see it here in the studio. And so I will be the final arbiter on who has gotten the artwork. So as you as a claimer, you may not see it the same, but if you watch Dueling Dealers, you know how that works. The payments need to be made. Well, if you claimed anything, of course, email me. That's what it says right there. Bill@comicartfans.com. After the show, let me know which pieces you claimed. Include your mailing address and, your YouTube or Facebook handle as well, as always appreciated. Then payment needs to be made within 48 hours of the invoice. If you're paying by a credit card or PayPal, there'll be a 4% service fee if you're in the US, or 5.5 international. There'll be no fee with Zelles, and we will also work with you if you need to pay via check or some other form of payment transfer that doesn't involve fees being taken out of it. But even then, we'd still need to have payment by the end of next week. So we'll be able to work with you in those regards. Then shipping is not included in any of this. Any of the prices you see today, you can combine shipping, of course. Domestic shipping is $30, international $65. We ship only in Masonite. Everything is bagged and really well packed. So I can assure you, we do our best job before we ship the art out from here. So, and I see Dan is back. And hey, Dan. You are back. All right. And now it's crackly. Why is it crackly now? Oh.
Crackly
but
again.
You're crackly again. Yes, it's almost like you have a voice filter on. I hate to say it. Maybe drop one time and pop back in one more time.
All right.
All right. And I see just reading the things. Dino says fixed price or offers welcome. Fixed price. You never know what Dan might feel before we kind of show the pieces that don't sell afterwards. But again, we have 45 pieces of art to show today. The first 8 are pieces that have been out there a little bit before, I think, in different areas. They're mostly published pieces, and then the second set are more of these ink and color pieces. They're the more affordable pieces that we've got, and I think there are 7 of those, and then we get into the 38 brand new. Well, not 30. Then we get about 30 pieces that are all 11 by 14 ish. There's 1 or 2 pieces that are right. 35. And it's crackling still. That stinks. I'm sorry, but we're gonna do what we can here. But let's see. Anything understood? But yeah, no offers on the pieces while we're showing them first time around at all. When we do artist shows, we don't do that. We do that on Dueling Dealers and a few other claim sale shows that we have out there. Let's see. A lot of pieces were created just for the show. Yes, Bill. What errors? Okay, on the published pieces. I looked at them like this piece right here. I think it had noted that it was done in 2019. So these cover pieces that we have are all from that era, although the one Nocturnals piece was dated 2022. And we'll talk about each piece a little bit when we show them. There's a Valiant cover in here as well, but I think all of those mentioned 2019. So, but other than those, these first, say, 6 pieces, everything else was created specifically for this show. So, which is incredible. I mean, we've done a lot of artist sale shows in the past, but typically, we only have, maybe a dozen to 15 pieces created for it, or we're selling pre-existing work. So he's going to leave one. Well, and he is back. Let's all cross our fingers here.
Hello, I'm back.
Oh man, it's like getting worse, Dan. I hate to say it.
Really?
Yeah, it's just not working. But it's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I wanted to be able to talk about each piece with you, but we'll do our, because do you still have that laptop in there with you? I mean, that's the only other alternative.
No. What I can do is I'll go out for a minute, turn my off, turn it back on, and then we'll try it again.
Yeah, but is it okay if I start, the show without you though, as far as the sale thing?
Yeah.
Because I won't be able to talk a lot about, I may end up, what I'll do is I'm going to set the pieces that were I was going to start with the published pieces, just so you know, that went through went through this cover here. So I'm going to set those aside. I'll start with, say, lot 7, which was that Jill Sleet piece. So I'll start there, and then I'll do these hopefully with you, because we can talk a bit more about them.
Okay. All right.
Perfect. All right, so that'll work, and Dan will be back soon, so we can get started on these. So I'll still show the first 2 pieces that I think have probably been seen before. They weren't done specifically for this show, so we're going to be starting off. And of course, everybody, I'd have pen and paper handy, because as you see things, you can claim a piece at any time throughout the show. So you might want to be jotting down the lot number and the character on the piece and the price for your own purposes, so that if you after you've seen the breadth of what's here, you can claim anything later in the show at any time. So yes, starting off with lucky number 7 is exactly right, Rick. So let's see here. I've got to scroll a little bit here to get things started. So, all right, we are starting with lot 7. So keep that in mind. And again, claims go in the chat. And the first claim that is in our chat is the one that gets it. So let's go ahead and get things started. So this first piece is, this is one of the smaller size pieces that we've got. It's 8 by 12, and it's of Jill Sleet from Giant Killer, of course, something that Dan put some time into. This is priced at $850, and I wish I could be holding these up and you can see the pieces as well, because if you're familiar with Dan's work, and I know most of you are, I mean, it has all the earmarks of a piece by Dan, the stark colors that you love, complementary and contrasting. So, it's a really beautiful piece. And she's kind of battle damaged, I guess, in this one too, isn't she? But it is painted pretty much not to the edge of the borders, because like Dan mentioned, he tapes things off to keep them down when he's painting on them. It helps keeps the board flat. This one does have a copyright date on the back from Dan of 2020. So that was one that had been done, like I mentioned, a little bit earlier. Then the next piece is going to be lot number 8. Let me go highlight that one. This is a Swamp Thing piece. It's done on 9 by 12. It is on watercolor board paper. I should say not a board, but the heavier textured watercolor paper. And it is copyright on the back 2022. It is priced at $500, and it's lot number 8. And Jeffrey, that is correct. But so very nice piece again. This is a Swamp Thing. It's the only Swamp Thing in here, and also the other one, as far as the Swamp Butt. All right, Eric. Probably no Swamp Butt on this one because he's Swamp Thing. He would never have any problems like that. But lot 8 priced at $500. So now moving right along. Now we're getting into all the pieces that were made specifically for this show. And we're starting off with the kind of the lower price pieces first. They're ink and watercolor, but not complete, typically edge to edge pieces. Lot 9 is going to be our first one. And let me pull this one up. This is a painting of Halloween Girl, priced at $400. This is on a bit of a heavier board. It isn't watercolor paper. It's a little bit thinner than matte board. It's on 8 by 10. And, it has, I was thinking about putting some jack-o'-lanterns behind me when I did this show. And now that I'm seeing this, I definitely should have done that. That would have been fun. I could have put them on the back wall there on top of the bookshelf. But Dan, I see that you're in here. Let's hear you say something.
Hi.
That sounds good. That sounds perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
My phone was heating
right.
up and had a lot of stuff open on it, so I closed your thing, turn it off, turn it back on. So hopefully we'll be good.
That may be part of what it is. I mean, but hey, we're gonna make do with this. Like I say, I skipped the first 6 pieces so we could dive right into these. So I'll do those first 6 last. And we're just getting started with the pieces made specifically for the show, which was the Halloween Girl at 8 by 10, lot 9, priced at $400. And this one's on a heavier board, Dan. I think it was like one of the only pieces where you did it on a heavier board like that. Was there a reason for that, or was it just something you had available?
I think this one was something I had started drawing on. I think it's on some kind of illustration board, but it was a small piece, like a pad or something. And I thought I was testing it out and to see how it worked with watercolor and ink and stuff like that. And it worked out fine. And I like being able to work on a slightly heavier paper sometimes, unless the surface is something I want to try out. Like some of these pieces are on like a Bristol board that is a kind of a smoother surface. Not so great for painting, but pretty good for ink and some wash. So this one's a little smaller than some of the other ones, but it has a nice a weight to it.
Okay, well, I think we're going to see some of those smoother pieces next, because we've got another, lot 10. It's priced $400 as well, but it is on the smoother board, and it's on 11 by 14. And just absolutely gorgeous. Everything you'd want in a Brereton piece here, right? I mean, and skulls. We got a few skulls in there too.
Yeah, there's a lot of skulls in these pieces, so and a lot of moons and a lot of bats. And I'll tell you a little secret. Other than the fact that I like to draw these things, compositionally, you want to balance out the piece. and these are elements that really do help balance out a piece. And I've been waiting for someone to like give me a hard time about them, and no one has yet. So when I start getting complaints, maybe I'll come up with something else, you know. But
I can't imagine anybody complaining, Dan. I can't. But this is a beauty, and fairly priced at the $400, and it's on 11 by 14. And Dark Phoenix, I adore this one too. It is it's gorgeous. DC Heavy Metal says Dan style is every day is Halloween, and I'm here for it. So,
yeah, I love that character so much. So she's so fun to draw.
So let's see, lot 11. Let's move over and take a look at that one. That is monochrome, The Bride, priced at $450 on the same 11 by 14 smoother board that you mentioned. That's better for the ink and whatnot. I mean, this is fun. It's got a skull, but it's got a spider too, so that's nice.
It's got a spider too. Yeah, it's on Winsor Newton Bristol board, which I found. I never used it before. I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. And it's a decent paper. It has a nice kind of smooth surface, a plate surface. It's not a heavy board, but it's not too thin, and it's perfect for a drawing like this, I think.
No, it is. It's I mean, it's gorgeous. I really like this one a lot. And Tom Presley just got into the show late to the show. When you see a piece that you want to buy, just type claim and the lot number in the chat. So just the word claim 11 in this case, and first person to get their claim in the chat is the person who gets it. Then we work with you as far as collecting payment. You'll send me emails. We'll cover that at the end of the show too. But once you claim something, you got to email me to get your contact information so I can take care of sending out invoices. All right, so lot 11 was The Bride, and then we've got, let's see, this next one is lot 12, Death. I mean, how often have you been asked to paint Death over the years? Uh-oh, Dan looks like he's frozen up, everybody. I hate to say it, but this Death is on 11 by 14, same smooth Bristol that he had mentioned earlier, priced at $450. And yes, I'm looking at his camera, and he is definitely dropping out. So there you have it. And I see that Justin Porter has claimed lot 12. Thank you very much, Justin. We sincerely appreciate that. And hopefully we'll be able to get Dan back in here. I can tell you that I've streamed a few times with my phone, and just like James Siegel said, it needs to be put in a bag of ice in order to cool it down, because once they start heating up, they become a little bit, well, they don't stream very well. And if you've ever left one on the dash of your car, you know what happens. Your phone will always turn itself off, or ask you to turn it off to save it. So I see Dan just popped back in here, but we'll see. I'm going to drop him in, and we'll see what happens. And then I see Josh Flanders just claimed lot 8, and I'll make a note of that one as well, because that one,
thank you, Josh.
Showed that a little bit earlier. And Justin Porter also claimed lot 12 too, Dan. So Josh Flanders.
You, Justin.
Thank you. All right. So next up, let me go ahead and show you lot 13, and another character I think people will be interested in, Vampirella. It's on that 11 by 14 smooth board. Again, priced at $450. Now, I bet you've painted Vampirella a few times, Dan.
Yeah, more times than Death, for sure. I mean, I've done a lot of Deaths, but yeah, I just, I had this for a little while, Vampirella was a character. I'd written some Vampirella stories, and I'd done a lot of covers, and she was like a pet project where I was trying to figure out the right thing to do with this character, because she's a vampire in a bikini, and right. How do you make her a substantial character? And many people have tried over the decades, and I'm not saying they've failed, but I still feel like there's work to be done with this character. But if you just accept her as a horror host for what she is, which is how she started, she's perfect. She doesn't need any help. So, love Vampy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, when they came up with that costume design, it was perfect. I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's like a lot of those early Cockrum designs. I mean, you just see him love them, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
perfect. So I wanted to thank Matt W on this one too, because I saw Gabe Carino came in milliseconds after Matt's, and then I see Nick Brucci came in as well. But Matthew was definitely first, so congrats to Matthew.
Nick knows I've done a lot of Vampirella.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yes, definitely. Now, this one is quite attractive. Lot 14 is the one I'm going to show next. And this one's priced at $500. It's the 1966 Black Widow on 11x14 and the same smooth board. And, I love this one. I mean, there is a little bit of background on this one, whereas the other ones maybe didn't have as much, but this one's fun. This one really is gorgeous.
I have always wanted to, I love this costume. I love this version of the character. I mean, I love all the versions of Black Widow, but especially the 70s when she was hanging out with Daredevil and stuff in that great catsuit costume. But going back and discovering that she had this completely different look has always kind of captivated me. And I've never been asked to do her. And I did 2 for the show just because the first one I did was more in color. And then I still felt like I had more of an urge to draw this character. So I did a second one. And I hope people ask me down the road to do her more because she's just great. It's just, and there's always a different hairstyle. The costume is more or less the same. But her hair changed from one period to another in the 60s. And it was always interesting. And I kind of liked a little bit longer hair, but it would sort of be fun to do more of a hair up or a beehive type of thing. But she's just really fun to do.
No, I agree. And one thing I want to let everybody know, just in case, especially if you're new to the show and you're watching on YouTube, there is a live button in the screen, kind of right above where Dan's last name is, because some of you might be joining late or your feed might be a little bit behind everyone else's. I mean, technically, Dan and I are in the future right now. We're about 3 to 5 seconds ahead of you anyway.
Okay.
But for those of you joining in, you could be 10 seconds behind us, whereas somebody who's also buying might be 5 seconds. So they've got a leg up on you. So if you click the live button, that should move you ahead just enough so you're as live as you possibly can be. Or the other alternative is just hit refresh on your browser and then it should load it up and be as close to real time as you possibly can be, because that is a factor involved in doing these live claim sale shows. And sometimes your browser, when you join the chats and the stream, doesn't bring you perfectly in line with where a lot of the other people are watching it. So just bear that in mind. And if you do that now, I'm giving you enough time to click it or refresh it, you should be on pace with us as well. So let's go ahead and show it. This is going to be the last piece that was more of the ink and light watercolors, I guess. This is lot 15. It's Dart from Atari Force.
Yay!
And this was I never read Atari Force, but I mean, we've been looking at a lot of Atari Force art on CAF lately because there's just so much. I mean, the interior work on those pages are just absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
So it made me chuckle when I saw this piece because it's like, I don't know if I've ever seen a piece from a commission piece from anything in Atari Force, but here we have one. It's awesome.
She's a great character. It's funny because when I did a color piece with her, there was like a kind of a variation of her with a slightly different costume for a commission for a Kickstarter. Sometimes I offer little watercolors, and because it was characters who were, a lot of people asked for female characters who were holding a sword or something, because that was the theme of the book mostly. I thought, I'll do who's that character from Atari Force? She didn't really wield a sword so much. She mostly had a blaster, but she was kind of a martial arts expert. So I thought I'll do her with the sword and her gun, and that one will probably be in my next art book along with this one. I'll do a spread. I'll have this and I'll have the other one. But I thought I'll do Dart again because her costume's so cool, and she kind of reminds me of Storm. She reminds me of Zealot, who came later, the Wildcats character, but that whole series for a short amount of time really captivated me, and it was clear that it was a kind of a Star Wars inspired type of thing, or just space opera. And I just dove right in, and Lopez's artwork is so accessible, and it just, I love it. So this is a really fun character to do.
Exactly. And Steve mentioned it too. Jose Garcia Lopez art on Atari Force it's just amazing. I mean, we highlighted a piece just on Thursday too, because his interior work was, stunning and really innovative in a lot of ways. So, let's see here. So this piece is still available, and from here on, we're going to be showing the more finished pieces that you did, and they're all around 11 by 14. I measured them all, like a couple were maybe 10 by 14 or around there. So I kind of noted if they really deviated from the 11 by 14 when I'm showing these. And let's see here. So we're going to move over to lot 16 here, and that's the first one, and that is the 1970s Doctor Strange with it's done on 10 by 14. It's priced at $850. It is lot 16. And remember, everybody, when you're claiming something, put claim in the lot number. That's all I need. So claim -16 or claim 16. We know what you're talking about when we see these. But, this one, you don't see Doctor Strange too often with the mask. But I mean, like you were talking about earlier, you were really going after painting characters that really interested you, and you wanted to go and do them, put the Brereton stamp on them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Doctor Strange, obviously, but that sort of group of stories in that arc where he chose to put on the mask for the reasons that he chose, which is basically to protect the innocent and his identity and stuff. Even going so far as to change his name when he was in his civilian identity, which is just crazy to me, but still is fun. I always loved that iconic cover that Gene did. Where he's standing out there and he's in his new garb, and then they show him like smaller so everyone knows who it is. But that just is one of those images that sticks with me, and that group of stories. And I'd never done it before. No one ever asked. So I thought, hey, I'm going to do one, and this is the opportunity for me to do those kinds of things in the show. And as you're going to see more and more.
Well, it was one of the first ones I think you sent me too. So that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, if you're going to be doing them at this level, we're really going to have a lot of great artwork for people to look at. So this was a good start.
One thing that you guys will probably notice is there's a lot of work in this show that's ink and watercolor, and it's not necessarily how I'm known for working. And it's something I've been doing a lot more in the last few years. And I'm getting really enjoying working that way rather than just going into a full painting. Now, sometimes when you're working on something, it really does scream out to you that it should be watercolor, gouache, or whatever. But then I found myself more and more working on superhero characters, wanting to pick up. And I do have this from my studio. This is a Zebra brush pen. It's not a refillable pen. Where is it?
I'll show that again. There you go.
It's Japanese. It has a brush tip. Can you see that?
Yep.
And it has it's not too firm, it's not too soft, it's perfect for me. And I buy these by the dozens, and I've been using them, and they have different sizes. They have larger ones, they have thinner ones. So I've been using those a lot, and it's really kind of satisfying some part of me that I haven't really it's an itch that I haven't been able to scratch for a really long time using a brush. Which, I mean, I'm using a brush anyway, but just being able to add that graphic line not only sometimes makes things go faster, but it really complements the color when it comes in a way that we're all kind of used to because we all grew up looking at comic books, so it's really fun.
Very, very nice. So that lot is still available. So we're going to go ahead and move on to a related character. We've got this Clea piece as the Sorceress Supreme. It's on 10 by 14. Again, this one's a lot 17, priced at $1,000. And it's got, to me, it's got everything you want in a painting by you, Dan. It's got the colors that we love. I mean, that they're so stark and striking. I mean, when we were talking the other day, I said, when I think of a Dan Brereton piece, I want colors that pop, and this is one where, and I'd say most of the pieces we're looking at today, that's the first thing you're going to think of, right? Is the colors. So yeah, this one's gorgeous. Yeah. And it has been claimed by Wayne just ahead of Sludgy 40.
Wayne.
So thank you, Wayne, and thank you for trying there, Sludgy. You were literally, once again, it's not even a second behind Wayne's claim, but very close. Very, very close on that one. So thank you, Wayne, for that one. But love this piece. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I just love all the extra details on it. I mean, everything you'd want on a Doctor Strange piece, but with Clea, I mean, it's gosh, I love it. And this again was one of those early pieces you sent me that made me know that we were really going to have an interesting show today.
I actually, I did sort of waffle between doing the more traditional Klee and then the Sorcerer Supreme version, but you know, the more detail and the more you can have, the better. So maybe when I'm thinking about if I do another Klee, which I'm sure I will, kind of doing some embellishments to the costume, like give her a cloak or something like that, just to make it more fun. Putting a cape into a piece really adds shape and composition and added color that just kind of makes the image just much more exciting, you know, which kind of gives you a clue as to why they were drawing capes all the time, because it's definitely not a very useful thing for a superhero to have, unless he's, you know, trying to cover his face like this, like Dracula, because, you know, we've watched enough. We've watched Incredibles, and we heard about what happens to superheroes with capes and Watchmen, but it's just super fun to draw, and it's just shapes. It's the shapes that are fun.
Agreed. And a lot of people are on YouTube, of course, but I saw a question come in from Facebook from Jackie. What other superheroes do you sell? I mean, the thing is, Jackie, just so you know, we have a lot of Marvel, a lot of some DC, and some independent work, and work that Dan's most familiar with. There is no Wolverine, though, but there are X-Men related characters coming. But there are X-Men related characters coming up, so you can keep that in mind when you're looking at the pieces that we've got coming up here. So we'll go ahead and go to lot 18. This is one that you sent me early on too, and I know that I'm sure a lot of people would agree. This one's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, painted edge to edge. It's you know, again, it's got all the things in a painting from you, Dan, that we'd want. I mean, a wonderfully beautiful character, moody night scene. You've got a spooky tree, you've got leaves, and you've got a skull, and it's so well executed. This one's priced at $2,000 and on 10 by 14, sorry. And let's see, we did get a couple claims come in fast, and Wayne was just ahead of Justin Porter. So Wayne has picked this one up as well. I mean, this one was stunning when you sent it to me, Dan. I mean, I couldn't believe it. You know,
this one I got asked about when I showed it on Patreon. I got asked about it a lot, and it was just one of those things. It's what's funny. You'll think maybe is funny is that this sat in a kind of a pencil stage in my studio in a stack with some stuff kind of forgotten for like a year, and I don't even know exactly why, but I picked it up last month or so, and I think I had even started a little bit of painting on her face, and I thought, you know, why am I not finishing this? So I just sat down with the gouache and watercolor and went at it. And yes, it is edge to edge. Most of these pieces these new pieces, almost all of them are edge to edge. So, but this one is, as far as the newer pieces go, I think this is the only one's fully painted with no ink line. And I was just really happy that people responded to it. So might have to make a print out of it or something.
Right. You know, and I was going to ask you too, Dan, I mean, before we move on to the next piece, and I would assume a lot of this stuff could end up in a sketchbook or somewhere like that. I mean, considering how much effort you put into this because you really started these at the beginning of January, it felt like. So this is like a 2.5 month project practically to do all this work for the show.
I was just at it. I mean, I was really motivated, not just by wanting to have a lot of pieces for the show, because originally my goal was 20 to 25 new pieces, and then it made 35. But I was just having so much fun. I had to finally, we got into March. I was like, okay, I have to stop now. I have to stop. So I stopped, but it wasn't because I was really enjoying myself, for sure. But this will definitely be in my next art book, because my next art book is going to have a lot of superhero stuff, and it's going to have probably all this stuff in it and a whole lot of pieces that people haven't seen yet. So it's I'm looking forward to putting that out soon.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the lot number 19. This one's priced at $800. It's a Jane Foster Thor on 11 by 14. Now, this one's actually on the smoother paper, not the watercolor paper, but at least, I wanted to double check that. Yep, definitely. But obviously a popular character these days. I'm seeing a lot more, commissions and convention sketches for the Jane Foster Thor coming up on CAF a lot. So it's, and I'm a Thor fan. I mean, I know you probably don't watch a lot of the shows on the channel, but I end up wearing a Thor helmet quite a bit. So
that's awesome. I had never drawn this version. This is closer to sort of the What If 1970s, or I can't remember when did it come out in late 70s or early 80s, but it was that What If version of
right.
her. And with a couple, I think she's got sort of this piece of cloth that's closer to the current comic book version of her, but I try to keep it simple. The background is white, but it actually has some white paint on it here and there, which Bill noted when we first were looking at it together. So it has a clean background on purpose to create that nice silhouette. And of course, the paper isn't the watercolor cold press Arches paper for some of these other pieces are. So I wanted to keep it real simple and graphic. And I think that the shapes don't need much more help on this one. So I was pretty happy with it.
Oh, I agree. So this is lot 19, priced at $800, and it is still available. We'll go ahead and move over to lot 20. And Black Knight, have you painted a lot of Black Knights before?
Never before. Never. First time. Super fun character. You know, I mean, down the road, I might do him on the winged horse kind of thing. But, you know, just, again, John Buscema's work on Avengers with this character, I just kept seeing him going, you know, I think I'd like to draw him. And then there was an artist on Instagram who had done some, I don't know if it was a commission or something that he was going to do to sell, and he'd done the Black Knight, and that just was like, it was a nice piece. I can't remember who the artist was. I wish I could remember, but that was what clinched it for me. It's like, I'm definitely doing a Black Knight. So really fun character. Again, with the cape.
Exactly. Well, I mean, as a character, it's right up your alley. I mean, you got a sword, you got some, you got armor and a cape as well. Todd Shepard said great rendition.
Awesome. He has an awesome helmet too.
Yeah. Jeffrey Moy said, how about a Monty Python Black Knight? Yeah, that could be fun one day.
How about a Tim the Enchanter? Yeah, that's a whole portfolio of characters for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, this one's still available, lot 20. So we'll take a look at lot 21. And this one was actually, I remember a couple weeks back, I had said, if anybody wants me to send a request over to Dan, please do. And I only got one. So I'm going to show it right here. This was lot 21. It's Man-Thing. It's on 10 by 14 on the watercolor board. And again, edge to edge on this one, just fantastic. I mean, I assume you've painted Man-Thing a few times.
Yeah. Actually, I did an issue. I painted a couple of issues of the Punisher Frankencastle arc that Rick Remender wrote. A decade ago. And the last issue, 21 of this storyline, I painted and it takes place on Monster Island, and the Punisher has been recuperating there, and then the Legion of Monsters show up and they fight him. So I got to actually paint Man-Thing in a comic book story. He's actually on the cover of that issue as well. And I've done other Man-Thing pieces over the years, but he was one of the first monsters in the Marvel sort of canon that I gravitated to. I knew about Man-Thing before I'd ever discovered Swamp Thing, which wasn't until I was in high school that I got into Swamp Thing because I was such a Marvel kid. But Man-Thing was definitely one of those characters that I gravitated toward instantly. And he's again, it's just fun to draw him, you know?
Oh, heck yeah. I back in the day, I was a big horror fan too. So when I would, if I wasn't drawing Godzilla or something along those lines, Man-Thing was kind of the go-to horror creature for me. So yeah, this is great. And Gabe Carino did pick this one up as well. So congrats to Gabe on that one. Wayne had a miss click on that one. So that goes to Gabe. Congrats for your first one.
Is
today.
Gabe request it?
No, that was not. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I saw that F. Massa mentioned I requested that one, but I think that one is, you had mentioned that somebody from Lake Como requested one, and I bet you that's F. Massa because I believe he is in Europe. But the person who actually asked us, I haven't seen in the chat yet today. So,
yeah, that was another reason I did the Man-Thing, because I had been pre-commissioned for Como. I'd been given the choice of either doing Man-Thing or Red Sonja, which is, it's like the Lady or the Tiger. So I thought, well, since someone else asked for Man-Thing, I'll do the Man-Thing. If it doesn't sell, then I can take it to Como. But if he wants me to do another Man Thing, I'll do another Man Thing. You know, I'm happy to do it. So I got more Man Thing in me.
Oh man, well no, this was gorgeous. So when you sent me this one, I was like, wow, that's definitely not going to last for the number of people who are horror fans out there and love your work. So let's see, lot 22 is next. This one's a little bit smaller. It's on 10 by 12, but it is on the heavier board, and it's Elric, of course, priced at $700. And I mean, who doesn't love Elric, right? I mean, this is again, it's a character right up your alley, right? So I assume you've probably painted Elric a few times in the past.
I've actually over the years that I've done him, I kind of settled on sort of a costume of my own for him. So what you're seeing is basically more or less the costume that I've done on him several times in other commission pieces. I've never done him as a freelancer, but I've done lots of pieces, and I kind of came up with this sort of the armored kilt with the dragons and some of the other details as kind of my specific sort of stamp on the character, which I don't really have a claim, obviously, but when I do them, I like a consistency. And again, the cloak is one of these things that is almost, you know, it's this eldritch. It's almost like it's alive. There's so many different things going on with it. These sort of bat wing shapes that I kept playing with and stuff. But yeah, Elric is just a blast. Such a great character too. So often he's been borrowed from, and I don't want to say plagiarized, but he's just been lifted so many times for other characters. I'm surprised we don't have an Elric movie or streaming show already. Hopefully we will. That's good.
I know, for as often as that character has gotten out there, you think that we should, but oh, and here we have a claim from Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Cheers.
Nice piece here too, I'll tell you. And as I've been telling everybody, now that I'm handling the fulfillment, the best part of this job is actually getting to see all the pieces, because I never got to see them before. Now I get to handle them all. So that one is a gorgeous piece. Congrats, Mike.
That's great. Well, I'm happy about that too, Bill.
Yeah, no, I mean, before that, I didn't even get to know who bought the art, because all the everything went into Third Eye, and so they pretty much handled anything. And unless there was a rare issue here or there, I never got involved or knew who was buying it, unless the person would mention it in the chat. They'd be like, I got it. So that was the only way.
Man, I feel bad for that, because part of this whole process is the community that we formed, and to kind of know who is getting what and stuff like that is really cool. I'm enjoying that too.
Yes, exactly. I've broken the code to CJ, but yeah, the nice thing is a lot of this stuff does end up on Comic Art Fans, and we all appreciate that. But yeah, let's keep it rolling here. We got lot 23 is priced at $950. It's Conan, of course, and it is it's on 10 by 14 board, watercolor board as well. And I mean, I would have to believe you've painted Conan a few times from commissions or whatnot. It shows. I mean, it seems like a character that is just a natural for you.
Yeah, I don't actually get asked to do Conan as much as I'd like. I did 2 covers for the Conan magazine in the 90s called Conan the Savage with Carl Potts, who's the editor. And I was going to do more. Actually, I had this whole penciled cover that was Conan and Fin Fang Foom, because Carl had, and other writers who were working on the title were working on the idea of these sort of Hyborian age versions of Marvel characters. There was like a Spider-Man, and there was an Iron Man character they were going to do. That was, they were, nods to the Marvel universe. And so I said, where was Fin Fang Foom during this time? And he goes, oh, that's a good idea. So I have a whole penciled, like 13 by 19 cover that I never finished, because sadly, there were some shakeups in editorial, and Carl and the magazine, I guess, just went away. Carl was laid off or whatever, which just, what a bummer. Such a great guy, great talented person, and really fun book. Jorge Zafino drew an issue of that magazine. John Buscema did at least 1 issue. It was that was fun. But as far as commission stuff goes, I don't get asked to do Conan all that much. So this one was a piece that is like a spec piece that I wanted to do. And it's always a challenge to do Conan, because there's different routes you can go with him because of all the different artists that have kind of made their mark. and I've done him in slightly different ways. Sometimes a little more handsome, sometimes more brooding, more brutal. So this piece is also done on Arch's cold pressed watercolor. So it has a really beautiful texture to the kind of wet on wet washes in the background. So it's really fun to do. Really happy with the way that all the colors and everything come together.
I was going to say, Carl Potts definitely launched many artist careers, in his tenure. I mean, he was,
sure.
I think he was there in the late '60s, early '70s, and into the '80s, and but yeah, he was an integral part of the team over there at Marvel, and his name comes up a lot with and always where it's like he helped me get my first gig, or he was my editor here or there, and I think we owe a lot to Carl and his tenure in our hobby.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. He's
All
a gentleman, he's a gem of a person.
So moving over to lot 24 here, this is a Thrill Kill Batgirl piece, and it's absolutely gorgeous, of course. And I mean, I didn't note it, but I see on the list you had it as 1961. This one's $1,000, and that's on 10x14. Just awesome. Again, edge to edge painted on the 10x14 board. It's, she's perfect, absolutely perfect. And we have a claim going out to Ken Carter on this one, just ahead of Sean Suzuki. So appreciate the claim from you, Ken, and Sean. You're literally
Sean.
Just seconds, or milliseconds, I'd say, behind Ken picking that one up.
This one again is on Arch's cold press, so it has a nice texture to it, and a lot of the background is using a Pentel brush pen that kind of has an ink cartridge. And what I would do is when the cartridge gets to be kind of low, I'll dip it in water and I'll use it to do those kind of washes and kind of brushy effects and stuff. It was really fun. So I try and keep the color to a minimum in certain places. And so this is, I mean, you guys probably, some of you will recognize this character from the Thrill Killer Elseworlds that I did with Howard Chaykin. So Thrill Killer was the first miniseries, and then we did a one-shot called Thrill Killer 62 because they take place in 1961 and 62. So.
And hey, this is a question that's come over on Facebook, and I was wondering it as well. And since it's on Facebook, most people can't see it who are over on YouTube. This came from Ray Cuthbert, who's actually thrown a few things out there. He said, is there any rhyme or reason to you, Dan, using DB as a signature versus using Brereton? Is it a space thing or what?
Well, ZD didn't work because that's not my initials, but I'll tell you how that started is when I had done a large number of X-Men trading cards for one set in the early 90s. I think I beat Bill Sienkiewicz by one card for the most cards in that set, which was kind of my goal for that month. I did as many as I could get done in a month, and I had 15 cards, something like that. So when it came time, when the set came out, I was asked to do signings, and people would come up with like 3 or 4 sets. So I had 45 cards to sign, and then a line of people. And so there wasn't always a room to put my signature on because I don't like covering the artwork. So I came up with an abbreviation, which was the DB. And then over the years, that became, so I'll go back and forth with that. Sometimes I want to keep it smaller. Like you'll notice there's kind of like a chevron shape in a lot of these pieces that have my name or my initials and then the year on them. But I always sign them on the back. My full name is signed on the back of every piece that you're going to see. So in case you like look through it and somehow forget like who DB is, you turn it over, you'll see my name. So that's the
very, very true.
They're both equally legit.
Okay, well, listen, Ken Carter, thank you for that one. And what do we got next? We got lot 25 here, and I'm gonna just take a wild guess. Tank Girl, not somebody you've gotten to draw too often, or maybe you have, and I'm crazy.
I think I've done some sketches here and there, but never a full-blown painting. There was a job I did for a video game, of iPhone video game, and it was kind of like about gangsters and ne'er-do-wells, and there was a character. There were several characters in this game. I can't remember the name of the company or whatever, but they hired me to do several paintings of characters that appear in this game. And some of them were direct rip-offs, I have to say, of like one was a rip-off of Go-Go, the Japanese assassin from Kill Bill. and another one was a ripoff of Tank Girl, very clearly. And a lot of people, when they saw the piece in my sketchbooks or you know, outside the context of the game, they thought it was Tank Girl. And I always loved Tank Girl. I love Jamie Hewlett's work. And so I thought, you know, I'll do a Tank Girl because she's just really fun. And then I put the tank in there too. And some rolls of toilet paper because it's important when you're in the way.
That is right. Yeah, when you're in a tank, you got to bring your own Charmin. That's true. So lot 25 is still available with Tank Girl on 11 by 13.5 on that one, and it is gorgeous. So next up, we've got let's see. Here we go. Let me go over here to another tab. Here we go. Lot 26, the Dark Phoenix piece painted on 10 by 14, and you know, as we all know, Dan, I mean, my first piece I ever got from you was a Dark Phoenix. And
yeah,
I lament to this day. I mean, I remember showing it to you. You remember I sent you that picture of me with when I had short hair,
yeah.
and you were like, "Yep, I remember that piece." But it was one of my favorite pieces. I regret, and I will. And actually, Dan, I'll tell you. You know, we were talking about like me replacing that piece. I'll have a request for you after the show's over. So
Okay.
you know, but
Okay.
yeah. So this one definitely was wanted by several people, but Pat L got in ahead of Alex Winter
Oh,
and
wow.
Nick Barucci, Dino, Marcus. So yeah, and Dark Phoenix gives her thumbs up approval on this piece as well.
Thank you guys for bidding well, you know, for stepping in and not bidding, but you know what I mean. Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, she's just one of those gimme type of characters, but I love the character, and she's what got me back into reading comics at the time, just around the time that she was going to be getting killed. So I had moved to a new town, and I was trying to think of what year that was. I think I might have just started my freshman or sophomore year of high school, and there was a kid who had loved art, and he used to draw. He used to do these pencil renditions of Frazetta paintings, and so we had a lot in common. And then he asked me, he said, "Do you read comics?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a huge comics fan." So he goes, "Oh, really?" And he didn't believe me. I don't know why. And he quizzed me on some things, and he goes, "Oh, you really do know your stuff." So we started going to this comic shop together. And I remember walking in, and there was this issue with Dark Phoenix on the cover, and she's kind of like gigantic, and all the X-Men are tiny around her, the green background. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And that sucked me right back into comics for a while. And then that led to discovering Bernie Wrightson and Warren, and just so comics always brings me back in. It's seriously just a part in my blood. But I remember you commissioning your Dark Phoenix, and yeah. So,
I remember it too. I think I saw you maybe like a few years after that, and you're like, "You got a pretty good deal on that one." And I'm like, "I know, it was gorgeous. I regret the fact that I let it go."
Well,
But
you know,
what are you gonna do?
regardless of whether you got a good deal or not, thank you for your patronage. I appreciate it. So.
No, without question. I that's the best part of this hobby is when you can buy artwork directly from the creators, right? I mean, it's all because I always say, you know, we're all good patrons to the hobby. I mean, a lot of times we're buying through a rep or buying it in the aftermarket or whatever, but there's nothing like buying art direct from an artist at a show or
No,
a format like this.
I generally don't have. I mean, occasionally, depending on what it is, I'll have someone repping me, but as a rule, I prefer to do it myself and deal with people directly. I enjoy that, and to be honest, I you know, when I'm doing any kind of piece, I'm aware of the fact that this stuff does get shown around, and so you really want to put your best foot forward. And if you just think about a piece as like putting, like when you buy gas for your car, and you go, okay, I'm gonna do $50 worth or I'm gonna do $20 worth, and then you get to 20 and you stop. Well, art isn't like that, you know. I mean, you don't just go, okay, he got his money's worth, and then you're done. A piece is done when it's done. So I think you should always put your best foot forward, and sometimes it's really hard to pull back. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. That Phoenix piece that I did for you, I had to do several tries, because the first one I did was so overblown and just going crazy that when I was done, I was like, oh, this would be weird to send this over. I felt, because I put way too much work into it. And so then I did another one, which I felt like I hadn't put enough work enough work into. And then I did a third one, and it was done, and I went, "This is perfect. This is perfect." So,
Well,
when you
I had
sold
no
it,
idea that backstory. That's
you
amazing.
sold it. You
Man,
sold it.
I really should try to find out who got that and get it back. I really should.
Listen, we'll work something out for another one, okay? Because again, that's the character that's just always fun to go back to. So
Awesome. Well, we have another X-Men related character here for lot 27. It's Mystique, done on 10 by 14. You know, perfect. I mean, this is a character that I feel like you're just so suited for. I mean, you know, for many reasons: the hair, the costume. We've got skulls, of course, the blue skin. I mean, it's one of my favorite pieces that came in when you were submitting them.
all thanks to Dave Cockrum, you know.
Yeah.
I decided not to go with such a deep cyan for her skin this time around. I wanted to kind of play around some light more. That's that was the only like major kind of what am I doing here kind of thing, was to kind of make this decision to not go really deep blue with her skin tone. I think it works okay, you know.
Heck yeah. No, well, you get a little bit more detail in the anatomy, right? When you're not going too heavy with it. I think this was perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And there were a few other people who tried to claim. I appreciate it. Sludgy 40, John Popa. What else we got here? Murray Roach also tried to get this one, but Wayne did come in first.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it.
And yep, Nick Perucci just said Cockrum, the best designer in comics. I completely agree.
Yeah,
he was amazing.
Next to Jack Kirby.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Cockrum and his sashes. Although, I mean, when you look at, I don't know, Kirby and Cockrum definitely, arguably, equal maybe in that, you know. But then again, Kirby's the first guy. So, but yeah, Cockrum tends to be. I did an X-Men story a couple of years ago for the Marvel anthology that Alex Ross curated, and I chose to do events that take place right after X-Men 94 and Giant Size X-Men #1. And the idea was to take all the X-Men who existed at that time and put them together in the Danger Room, which was, looking back on it, that was a lot I bit off a lot. But it was just this Cockrum fest of all these great, and I really did want to kind of capture the feel of that time, without kind of deviating too much from the style. And it was a lot of work, but it was fun.
That's awesome. This is so congrats to Wayne on that one. Another pickup for you. We've got lot 28 next. This is on 10 by 14 watercolor paper as well. Polychrome, of course, and priced at $1,000. We all love the character and your books, Dan. So it's nice. And I know you didn't do a lot of pieces that are kind of from your world. You were really kind of branching out and tackling different characters and things. But this was nice to have as part of the sale today.
Yeah, I think someone might have suggested I do polychrome, because I was really like in this sort of Bronze Age Marvel mode this time around. But she is a popular character. I really enjoy doing her, and she's kind of like my glamour girl of the Nocturnals in a way. It's very fun to do, and it's fun. What the funny part is when she first appears in Nocturnals in several issues, she's very dressed down. She wears this big overcoat and this do-rag on her head, and the idea is she's supposed to look almost like someone who's a street person, and you don't realize at first that she's a ghost. But then later on in the story, when she's just kind of at home, I put her in different outfits and realized that I could play around with that. So I do tend to do that.
Well, congrats to Murdoch for picking this one up. He says he's got an
Awesome.
Eve, was wanting a polychrome to go with her. Well, now you've got it.
That's great, man. Thank you, Murdoch. Thank you.
Now, this next one's a little bit smaller than the other ones that we've been looking at. This is, once again, the Halloween Girl, and it's on 9 by 12, but definitely more finished than the other pieces we saw. And this one's priced at $700. And every time I see the jack-o'-lantern, I'm really regretting that I didn't put one on my back shelf, because I've got two just in the other room. I used them for props and something this last Halloween, but this one's gorgeous. I mean, I love that the orange hue of the background just kind of creeps its way into her dress, and I mean, it's really, really impressive to see in person.
So this is another example where the painting gets a wash of orange over pretty much the whole thing, except for the moon and the front of her body where the moonlight would theoretically be touching. So if you look, you can kind of see where it's a cooler light pattern in the front of her, and then it gets more warm as you go in, and that's because you go over the whole thing and let it dry, and then you go in and add stuff. But one note about the pumpkin is it's basically it's a real cheap plastic pumpkin that I have at home that I just turned it around because they're printed with a face on them, and that one I just draw over the face because the face is so rudimentary on those printed ones, and I just embellish it, and I use that as my prop for her. So that's why the face is very usually very consistent, and it's fun.
Cool. Well, thank you, Justin, for picking this one up. It's let's see, lot 30 now. This is a character that has never been seen before. I know you said Deathlock Femme, and I wrote down Lady Deathlock. But,
okay.
Either way, 11 by 14. Yeah. And this is on a smoother board, I think. And it's priced at $800 for lot 30. But I mean, inspiration for this one, Dan, since it's a character no one has seen before.
I was actually, I think I was going to draw. I think I was thinking about drawing some other femme fatale with a gun character, maybe Domino or something, because I'd done her before. And then just some weird thing jumped into my head, and it's like, what if you did Deathlock? As like a female version of Deathlock, and it just popped into my head literally, and I thought, wow, okay, how would that look? And it was almost a challenge because can I still pull off the femininity and even some attractiveness with this character? And so that was really fun to do. And I thought to myself, this might be a big waste of your time, but again, I really like it a lot, and I'm really happy with how it came out. And I love Deathlock. I've been a fan of Deathlock since the book appeared on the shelves. Well, that version, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the guy who created him. I've got Dave Cockrum in my head, but it's not Dave Cockrum. It's come on, somebody come in and help me out.
In the chat's gonna save us. Marcus, where are you?
Who created him, and he didn't write the series, but he created the idea and the story and the concept of the character, and then worked with the writer and to bring that out. Rich Buckler, yeah, of course, Rich Buckler. Who I loved his work on Fantastic Four and other books like that, and I just instantly gravitated toward the character just seeing the cover of it. And I'd love to work on that character. I have this sort of a pet idea, daydream of doing a Marvel story that has Killraven and Deathlock in it, fighting Martians and stuff like that. And
that sounds fun.
I have Wayne to thank for that, because at one time Wayne wanted to commission a Deathlock and Killraven, which tapped directly into my spine as a comic book lover, and then he changed his mind and wanted something else, and it's still been persisting to this day. But yeah, Todd says I'd buy that book. I said
absolutely.
I would paint that book. I would love to illustrate that book. I would even write that book. Definitely enjoy Deathlock. Maybe Lady Deathlock will show up one day in a story. Who knows?
Well, I think she should. But congrats to Wayne on picking this one up. We both sincerely appreciate it. And you get the skull on it too. Let's see, lot 31 now. We've got Killraven, the 1975 version. And this one's on 10 by 14, and this is on the heavier watercolor paper, priced at $1,000. Not only do you get the sword, you get the pistol as well.
And don't forget, you get the Serpent Stallion.
Exactly.
Listen, the Serpent Stallion is very, very integral to this whole thing, because that was when I was reading this comic as an 8-year-old, which, arguably not a comic for 8-year-olds. If you remember the things that were happening to human beings in those stories and what Martians were doing to people, like pregnant women and enslaving them and making them lick their boots and things like that. My mom picked up the comic and she just about had a heart attack. And she's like, why would you be interested in this? And I said, because Killraven rides a Serpent Stallion, Mom. That was I've only done this character once before in that Marvel triptych that I mentioned earlier. But I'd always wanted to do something else. And he's, again, a great character. There's an issue that Gene Colan drew, because I think he only drew one issue of the series, and it was where Killraven is breaking. He captures and breaks a serpent stallion to ride. And that just, I'll never forget that. It's just, for me, it's just part of my, my childhood.
Your childhood, right? And
Yeah.
and that memory of the conversation with your mom will never leave you.
No, never. And and P. Craig Russell's art
Oh yeah,
will never leave me.
Man, well, let's see, lot 32. I think we teased this one because I mean the colors on this thing were gorgeous.
Yeah.
Of course, Warlock, the 1974 version. It's on 11 by 13.5 board, priced at $1,000. But again, it's you drawing characters that aren't of a normal flesh color are just you should just stick to that, man, because you do. I mean, it's orange now. We've got blue. We have gray. We've got all different ones. But man, I think this is just so beautiful.
He's just. I mean, and I love the Jim Starlin version, because that's when I came into comics. That's what I was first exposed to. But then going back into back issues a little later, I discovered the Gil Kane version, and I was like, this is pretty cool too. And he's and this is based on a Gil Kane cover where he's standing there telling you that he just killed everybody on Counter Earth, and he's angry, and it's just that sort of classic sort of Gil Kane pose. And I obviously I did my own version of it. I didn't just copy the cover, but definitely inspired by that. In fact, if you can see Gil's initial is on one of those pieces of rubble as an homage. But yeah, again, don't get asked to do this character, and have never been asked, and I thought, well, this is the time to do it. So really enjoyed it, and I'll probably do Warlock again, maybe the Starlin version, who knows, with the cape and the big collar.
Right. No, this is it's gorgeous, and congrats to #1 Marvel fan for picking that one up just ahead of Nick Barucci. Was very close. It was
that's really cool. Well,
but yeah, no, it's amazing. And I love the little Easter eggs you put in there as well. I know that a few of the other pieces have little fun touches to them as well.
Yeah, that's another thing too that harkens back to other things that not just I love, but those of us who feel an affinity for these characters or have history with them, which will hopefully pick up.
Indeed. All right, so what do we got? Lot 33 next. This is a Yondu, of course, and it's on 11 by 13.5. This is the 1975 version, as you noted. This one's priced at $900. And I mean, this is I always loved this costume as well. I mean, it's just too cool. And when you think of Yondu, I mean, you always think about the way he appeared in the movie now. But this version, so I love this one.
Again, I try to stick to closer to the comic book version. I didn't get too crazy with the modeling and colors and things like that. I try to keep it in sort of the comic book visual style, which is kind of different from what you might see me do a lot in comics. And I just always loved Yondu. He was my favorite character early on in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love the cinematic version, but he's just one of those characters I've never drawn him, I don't think, but I don't know why, because I love him so much. He's great.
Well, I saw that the Stephen Davis misclicked on that one. We know how that goes, because a lot of people kind of type the claim as they're moving to the number, and then you accidentally bump it. It happens, but not a problem. So this one is still available, lot 33 at $900. And let's see here. I'm going to move on to lot 34, and a related character, of course. You got Gamora on this one from 1975. This one is on the smoother board, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so this one's priced at $950 on 11 by 14, and quite a few skulls on this one.
Yes.
And many not human. Or all.
That's right. Yes, non-human skulls. That's my nod to Jim Starlin, who created the character. And mine deviates a little bit from his design, in that she wears kind of a black hood and a black kind of fur cloak. And they all kind of go together in this one sort of massive black shape. And I just decided to just make it just this huge mane of hair, and it was just really fun to do. And again, never drew this character, never thought about drawing her, but again, in my sort of deep dive into the Bronze Age of Marvel Comics, she came out. So, and she's on the Winsor Newton Bristol, so kind of a smooth surface.
Well, congrats to Wayne on that one as well. Tom Presley, you were just a fraction of a second behind that one. Now, there's a lot of, we call them doozies in here, but there's a lot of doozies coming up in the next few lots here. I mean, this next one might be one of my favorites. I mean, it's not might be, it is one of my favorites. So the lot 35 is the Medusa piece, priced at $1,250. It's on 10 by 14, the heavier board. And like this one, I mean, I'll let you give away, you can see it, but you tell us the Easter egg on this one, Dan.
Oh, you guys can see the Easter egg if you're looking at it small. I mean, but maybe someone will leap out and say, but it was one of those things where when you're trying to come up with props or whatever to create the shape, I thought it'd be kind of cool if it was the rubble was like some crumbling part of the city of the Inhumans, and so I have this kind of Black Bolt sort of thing going on. It's not supposed to be necessarily a Black Bolt, but it's in that neighborhood. So you can kind of see the little fork that he wears on his the tuning fork thing he wears on his forehead, and some of the face. But that was just definitely something that was just fun, little, like you said, an Easter egg.
Oh yeah, and this one was in high demand. Stephen Davis came in first, but Sean Suzuki, Gabe Carino, Wayne M, of course, Chris Spanabel Murray, Steve Lipsky. I mean, there were a lot of people that wanted to get this one, but Steve. So we sincerely appreciate that. That's like I say, was one of my favorites in all of these ones, and they're all just amazing. But yeah, this one, there's just got a lot going for it on this one. So congrats, Stephen. So
yeah, I haven't done a lot. I think I've been asked to do Medusa once before, and I did a Medusa Black Bolt commission in the 90s. And again, she has these different looks and costumes, and I just kind of went back to the Kirby version. And thank you guys. I mean, it must be really nerve-wracking. I mean, it's I recognize that it's nerve-wracking to kind of trying to be first to these things. So
it is. It is. And that's why, Dan, honestly, that's why I was so happy that you did so many, because I felt like a lot of the pieces were going to be in high demand. So it's just good that, there's alternatives out there. If your fingers aren't fast enough or your internet's not fast enough, we have options. So next up is lot 36, priced at $1,000. It's the Scarlet Witch, of course, in everybody's favorite iteration of her, I would believe. And this is on 10 by 14 on the heavier watercolor board as well. And classic pose, classic costume. I mean, there's nothing to cry about on this one. It's just gorgeous.
Again, classic character. How do you resist doing? She had to go in there. So the funny thing is there's everyone can kind of readily pull up DC female characters, and you can do the same thing with Marvel, but there definitely is a kind of really small pantheon of these characters to choose from. And that's why it was kind of fun to go back and try and do variations on costumes, like with Black Widow, because everyone, when you say Black Widow, few people think of the 60s version, the fishnets. So that was kind of fun to do those versions. And this one is kind of somewhere in the 60s and into the 70s. It hasn't changed too much, but down the road, I might do that helmet that goes around her, under her chin. You never know. We'll see.
Well, it's gorgeous, and it's funny. I saw the comment was made. I didn't say it myself, but people said, who was it? Chris Manivell said you're going to get asked to draw the Medusa a bit more now that they've seen your take on it.
So. I mean, think about what's going on visually with the character and all the kind of permutations of that. And I'm surprised I haven't been asked to do her more.
Nope. I would have thought you would have done her many times. But next up, again, this is an incredible piece. and it's lot 37, priced at $1,350. It's the Tigra on the 10x14 heavy board. And again, no flesh tones here. And every time no flesh tones, it's like it's a grand slam home run, in my opinion. So it's like if anybody is commissioning you at a show, they should always just be thinking, what characters have a different color skin, or they have fur.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, if you look at Nocturnals, there's only two main characters that have, human flesh tones. And again, that goes back to monsters, like, loving to do monsters, and Tigra is, again, just like a no-brainer. Such a great design. This one just, I don't know. It's just, it just came out nicely, I guess. I'm happy about it. So I really like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And Wayne did pick this one up just ahead of Alex Winter. Yeah. So thank you, Wayne, again. All right, now next piece here. It's the only horizontal piece we have tonight. This is lot 38, and it's priced at $1,000. Ms. Marvel, and it is on the heavier board. Yeah. I don't. But this isn't it's not the press, right? It's not the heavy watercolor textured board, though.
No. But again, I think the background is acrylic wash. But most of it's watercolor. And then the ink line and stuff. And this one has man, that was fast, Wayne. Thank you. This one has an Easter egg in it too on the side of the building she's sitting on. If you look.
Oh, it has scorpion libs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because of course in the early on in the comic she fought the scorpion over, I think, 2 issues or something. So, and I was looking at the John Buscema work of the first 3 issues as my inspiration for this, and I've always loved this version of the character. I mean, just such a crazy costume, and the hair, the 70s hair.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted a page from the book that Dave Cockrum drew, right? I mean, I forget what the issue number is when she was fighting those reptile-y creatures underground.
Yeah.
I think it was Cockrum. Maybe I'm wrong, but
super fun.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I mean, those were just amazing.
Well, I think, was it Jim Mooney who was drawing quite a few issues of that later on? I think he was a penciler for a while. In fact, the first time you see Mystique in her costume in a comic is I think one panel was drawn by Jim Mooney in that book, in that title. I did some deep diving to find that out. That's what led me to this comic, which is another first time, the early version of Mystique drawn by Mike. So even though Dave Cockrum created the character, he wasn't the first to draw her in the pages of a comic, which is probably pretty interesting.
So I'm reading the chat here. So Wayne says, Dan, I'm knocking off my commission request for a while.
Who said that?
Wayne did.
Oh.
So congrats to.
Yes, I think he has one coming up because he's a member of my Patreon page, and so he'll have one coming up. So we'll figure out something. But good for you, Wayne.
All right. Well, lot 38 goes to Wayne. So let's take a look at lot 39. The only topless piece we have today as well. Of course, it's Deja Thoris, and that's the way she's supposed to be done. And, again, it's look at the skin tone. Man, well, I don't know what to say. But this one's priced at $1,000, and it's on 11x14, and it's on the smoother board. But it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's got that, the emblematic Brereton signature on it.
Yes, no initials.
Exactly.
And more ruins and rubble and folds in clothing and other fun things. This one has a watercolor going on, but also some acrylic wash with metallic pigment. So when you see the silver, it doesn't really necessarily show up until you're looking right at it in person, but there's metallic pigment on it, which really kind of pops. It's a nice effect when you're looking, when you have it in your hands.
Yeah, you saw Chris Spanabel said she's not topless, she has a necklace on. And it's a Martian tan.
Semi-nude Deja Thoris. Scantily clad, whatever you want to say.
Several folks wanted to get that one. So But Ray's over on Facebook. He said he loves the symmetry on the DB signature, and I do too. I mean,
well, thank you, Ray.
All right, so this one, I've been talking about the skin tone thing, and now this one has proper, skin tone. Let's see, it is lot 40. Let me bring this one up. It's priced at $1,000, and it is of Cynthia, obviously one of the witches from the Witching Hour, and she's very curvaceous, and this is just a beautiful, beautiful piece. I love the faces on the tombstone, in the background, and the pedestal she's sitting on. But yeah. It's stunning, man. I just love it.
Thank you. I kind of figured out, like, I kind of cracked the code on Cynthia over a few commissions, and the more fleshy and hippie and soft dig she is, the better. And she's fun to do, and there's always when you with certain of these characters, you kind of get a feel for them the more you do them, and I really enjoy her doing her now. And actually, I didn't really grow up reading those books as a kid, but now I'm much more intimately involved. Intimate, I don't know about that, but much more involved with them. And I'm a huge fan of Alex Toth, and the stuff that he was doing on that book is always an inspiration, for sure. Which is why I like to put in all three of them when I can, work them in.
Yes, and so Jeffrey Moy did get this one just ahead of Wayne and Nick Perci.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I do have to mention, I did not announce I think I highlighted it, but I didn't announce it. But on lot 39, Mr. Easy Go Lucky had picked that one up just ahead of Wayne and Sludgy and Tom and Steve. So
which was that one? Was that the one we just saw?
That was the Deja Thoris. So I think I got too wrapped up in talking about her being topless and her skin color, and I didn't announce it. But Mr. Easy Go Lucky did get that one just ahead of 4 other people who were interested in that piece. So thank you to whoever reminded. Oh, Sludgy was the one who reminded me to say who got it. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody.
Yes, and congrats to Jeff on this. Jeff, Jeff's an artist in his own right, has an amazing art collection and good taste. So thank you, Jeff, for picking that one up.
Absolutely right, Jeff.
All right, we got what do we got? We have 5 more pieces here that are new to market, done just for this show. And next up is lot 41. This is Orion on 10 by 14. This is on the heavier watercolor paper. It's priced at $9.50. And this was this one of the later pieces you did?
Yeah, I think so. I think I really wanted to sort of get my hand in with a lot of the female characters, and then I thought, okay, I got to break it up. So yeah, I think he came a little later in February, but I did have he was definitely on my list. And he again, Kirby Fourth World characters. I had done another Fourth World character prior to this, and I thought this would be a nice companion to that, which we haven't seen that one yet, but it's coming up. And of course, there's a pretty big Easter egg in this. I don't know. We're going to call them Easter eggs, but yeah, there's a reference in here as well that you'll probably see. You've probably already noticed. But,
indeed. Yes, very nice, and a good helmet. I think you kind of gravitate to characters with cool costumes. So this was definitely right up your alley, I'd say.
Yeah, it's really fun.
But no one's claimed this one just yet. When, like I say, we've got 4 more to look at after this one. So I'm gonna move that one over here. Now, yeah, there you go. Margaret's, she gets it. So let's go ahead and look at lot 42. This is another Black Widow from 1966 on 10 by 14 watercolor board, the heavier one, and this is priced at $1,000. And I love the choice of color on this one. I mean, when you look, you're always thinking about how to do the complementary colors. Is that is it something that just is very natural to you anymore when you're working, or do you really put I don't know. I'm just how would you approach something like this, knowing the color of the costume?
Well, there's so many different ways you can go. You could go more blue. You could go cooler. But I feel like you said, the complementary colors just they support each other. And I didn't go. It was an interesting choice to go with this kind of this red background, because it wasn't necessarily what I had envisioned, but it might have been that I did the orange, because the orange and the blue and the orange and the kind of almost purple blues are the thing that kind of really work together. And then how do you balance that, or how do you support it even more? So a blue, like a bluish dark sky didn't really work. So I went with this kind of warm sky, and I think that was the right way to go. And I was trying to keep it very simple, and not go crazy with background again, because the figure itself is doing all the work. The cape is doing a lot of the work. If you look at the way the moon in the background, if you follow the circle with your finger, you can kind of see how it works into the curve of her cape, and that's all by design. So I wanted to keep the rest of it pretty held back. So there is an indication of like a skyline, a city skyline, but it's pushed way back.
Yeah, no, I mean it's perfect. I love it, and congrats to Will K for getting this one. And
awesome.
as he mentioned, love seeing this on Dan's Patreon. So again, everybody, if you didn't get the hint, joining Dan's Patreon is a wise thing to do. You get to see some of these pieces in advance, and gives you a heads up. But also you get to learn a bit about Dan and his process, and sometimes get a few things, like you said, an annual digital sketchbook that you've done, that you put together for the people on the Patreon. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing. And again, it supports Dan. So, it helps him be able to do a lot of the projects that are near and dear to him, the independent projects that he works on. And, these sorts of things help kind of pay the bills in between, other gigs that he's got going on. So please consider that. And the link is in the chat, or in the description of the shows on Facebook and YouTube. So now this one's kind of, at least in the Thor realm of characters for lot 43, but not Thor, not Lady Thor. It's Karnilla, and it's a little bit smaller. It's on 9x12 on the watercolor. It's on the watercolor board. It's $800 for this one. And there's actually a really nice page on eBay right now from Thor. It's a John Buscema page where the focus is on Karnilla. It's a really gorgeous page.
Inked by Tom Palmer, maybe?
I think you might be right on that one. Yeah, but the right era. I can't remember the issue number.
And it's a beauty. And man, it's like, that's one I would love to own, especially Wayne. Actually, Wayne will probably remember, but his next. Wayne.
This is Misfire. Yep, Wayne's backing out on that one. He says
wanted to do another one because he'd actually his Patreon commission coming up was for Karnilla, and that one would have been 12x16, and maybe her on a throne and with all the kind of stuff that she likes to have around her. And I hope I still get to do that, because this character, when I did this piece, I started this piece before I knew I was doing this live art show, because I really liked the character, and I liked the way that Kirby and Buscema both played around with their costume. Kirby did variations of it, and I realized she's like a gem of a Kirby character, with the crazy hair and the costume, and I thought she'd be fun to do. And then I think Wayne came up later and said, he came up with the idea on his own for me to do Karnilla. So I was like, that was a really good suggestion. So I did do this one, and hope to still do another one, and maybe more. So yeah.
All right. Well, this one's still available.
Queen of the North.
Exactly. Let's see, 2 more of these new pieces before we go back and look at the first 6 that we skipped earlier. This next one is lot 44. It is Wonder Woman, priced at $1,100 on 10x14 heavy watercolor paper here, textured. Love this piece the moment I saw it too. You've got the Grecian statuary busted, the columns. No skull on this one though, but that's all right. We don't need it because.
No, there's all the skulls by this time have crumbled.
Yes.
So
and we definitely had a lot of people interested on this one. Steve Lipsky has gotten it, but right ahead of Alberto Gonzalez and T. Tad, Wayne, Swan Shadow, A. Matthew as well. So congrats to Steve Lipsky for picking this one up, because it's gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, I love Wonder Woman. I mean, when I did a one book with Wonder Woman, which is just JLA 7 Caskets, which is a one shot that I wrote and illustrated for DC in the late 90s. I think it was my last major book for them, other than the Legends of the Dark Knight arc that I did for the digital platform in 2015, which it's a Batman story that I wrote and illustrated, which if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's Legends of the Dark Knight digital series number 85 through 88. And it's fully painted. It's Batman up in the mountains in the middle of the night fighting a coven of witches, and it's creepy as hell. And there's other creatures and stuff in the story, and other Batman villains appear in it as well. But before that, in the late 90s, I did this JLA 7 Caskets book and team book with the current lineup, and Wonder Woman was just so fun. Just, I don't know. She's just so great. And it doesn't even matter what version of her. I mean, no one's asked me, no one's asked me to do her in her white costume from the 60s, but that would be fun to do too. The Jeffrey Jones kind of stuff.
Well, Steve, who got this one, mentions that this is his first Dan Brereton art.
Oh, that's well. Congratulations, and thank you so much, Steve. I think it's a great start.
And CJ mentioned that it wasn't Palmer, it's Ordway inks on that Thor.
Okay. Jerry Ordway, really? Oh, no kidding. I never would have guessed that. Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful page.
Yeah, it definitely is. The one panel that's just all Carnilla is to die for. So here we go. We got one more piece to look at before we go to look at the first 6 that we skipped over. And this is lot 45. It's Big Barda on 10 by 14. Yes. She's made her appearance. It's priced at $1,000, and this is on the heavier watercolor paper board, and it's stunning. You mentioned that you do one every now and again, right? It shows you get asked right? I mean, I think when we were talking,
I don't know that I've ever been commissioned specifically. The first time I did Big Barda was for a Kirby event that Her Initiative put up, and I was really trying to kind of do this sort of Kirby homage, and really just love how it came. I was really happy with the way it came out. Okay, so I just dug it, and I love that costume, and I've done her a few more times, and I just love the construction of this costume and what the hell is going on with her hair, and for this one I was looking at like Kirby work, and I was looking at there were a couple of action figures to kind of understand more about the construction of what's going on with her hair and other things like that. And there's metallic pigment in acrylic wash, metallic pigment in this one. And I love that. I love that character. She's just so fun to,
Well, no, without question. So this one was picked up by Wayne, and A. Matthew and Marie Roach were also interested in the piece, but Wayne did get there first. So congrats on that one. It's let's see here. No, it's definitely a gorgeous piece. So congrats to Wayne on that one. So let's see here. Wayne. Right now I'm just seeing Andrew Hanna is going ahead and asking to claim lot 11. That was the bride piece, of course, from early on.
Thank you.
And like I mentioned, everybody, it's always good to keep a list when we're looking at these. So Andrew Hanna,
I think someone had suggested that I do some like ink pieces, that weren't in the same price range as the color ones, and then I think someone had actually even said, maybe do like one of your Bride of Frankensteins, because I that's one of the characters I love to do. So I'm really happy that you're getting that one. Thank you.
No, yeah, definitely. And just going through here, I did get somebody texted me directly in the chat asking about, didn't they get it first? And let me I'll just hide this piece before we move on and look at the first 6. But it was T-Tad in the chat. And the thing you have to remember, T-Tad, with the way the way YouTube in particular works is when you type a claim and you type your claim and you hit enter in the chat, YouTube doesn't want you to know that, it really takes a few seconds for that thing to be pushed out there so everybody can see it. And what they do is the moment you hit enter, it puts it in there. And even if, then say Wayne comes in, Wayne actually posted his, say 3 seconds before, or not 3 seconds, a millisecond before you. Bottom line is that like yours is going to be seen here, and then Wayne's drops in as number 2. But we here in the studio actually see that Wayne and I don't recall if it was Wayne that got that piece, but he would be first. But it's all just about, could you imagine if you're on YouTube and you're trying to enter something in the chat and it took 3 seconds to be seen, or it took 2 seconds to be seen, you would think YouTube sucks. But so it just doesn't work like that. When you type a claim or anything into the chat, it throws it in there immediately. And so that's kind of the trick with this, is that we here in the studio actually see things ordered properly. And I can't screenshot it and show you, but it definitely had you as third, even though on your screen it looked like you were first. So it's we have that happen on Dueling Dealers, at least once a week or something, just because it's tough. It's definitely it's frustrating for the people to see that, thinking they've got it when in fact they did not.
Yeah.
But
we try and help you, Bill, and I know you were making it as level a playing field as possible, and so I'm sorry for anyone who.
Right. It sounds like we might do this again sometime after the con season, slows down or whatnot. Maybe, I'm all for that. And obviously, as somebody else mentioned, if you see Dan at a show, don't, hit him up early, and hopefully maybe you can get on a sketch list. And you always bring a few new pieces when you're going to shows as well, right, Dan?
I try to, superhero stuff, this kind of comic book stuff tends to go kind of fast, but I do usually bring originals with me. Also, if we are going to do this again later in the year or something, write to Bill and throw out some suggestions,
Very good idea.
And if it's something that I feel have an interest in or feel passionate about, I'm probably going to do it. So I definitely do want to hear, and there are pieces that didn't get picked up, so go back and take a look. Are we through the whole lots now?
No, what we're gonna do first, I've got to look at those the first 6 pieces that you have, and then we will take a look at the pieces we showed earlier, or that we've already shown that we haven't sold. So all right, so let me go and let's go all the way back up to lot number 1. And that was one you saw me holding in my hand. This is this Mind Management bootleg number 2, cover B. It's on 11 by 17, priced at $2,250. And I mean, does this one have some of that like metallic paint going on it? I mean, it looks like
it does. It's a mostly gouache, acrylic gouache on 11 by 17 Bristol board, which is the same board that is comic book art board. The surface of this has changed in the last 20 years, so it's not as friendly to watercolor and water-based media as it used to be. It used to be the go-to for, Sienkiewicz, Alex Ross, Brian, guys who did painted stuff would have no problem using the artboard that they were sent, because it was 500 series Strathmore and it has great service for painting. It's changed because the brand has changed hands and it's with another company and they cheaped out. Just going to say it. I've actually even had discussions with the person who's kind of the head of the branding of Strathmore, and there was a sizing, which is a kind of a gel that goes over the surface that made it perfect for watercolor. I don't care what Strathmore says. It was perfect. Everyone knows it who worked on it. It's changed. So when I use acrylic gouache, I don't have that issue with the surface anymore because it's opaque, rather than having to worry about how much pigment is going into the paper or not. Whereas like with the acrylic cold press, it sits mostly, it has a nice balance of what gets the pigment that gets sucked into the paper and what sits on top on the texture. And it's beautiful for watercolor. But Strathmore is still fine for drawing, inking, and it works fine for acrylic gouache. So this was one of four covers I did for Matt Kint's book, which is a great book. If you haven't read Mind Management, you should definitely run out and buy it. I got to know the story just because they hired me to do covers and they sent me the trades and I read them voraciously. Very mind-bending, reality kind of shifting story. And because of that, I was given the opportunity to do very surreal kind of dreamlike imagery with a lot of freedom from Matt. He would just say, I want this character on this cover. And then I would just go. So I would look at some of the story elements and things that were going on, and I would play around and I put sort of dream images. So I did this sort of Muka inspired piece with the stars, and there's sea stars. So there's stars, and then there's sea stars, which are kind of were versions of sea stars, which are like the giant starfish that have the multiple arms, and just really just had just a wonderful time doing it. And yeah, it's 11 by 17. It has a different metallic acrylic wash hues, going from bronze to copper, silver. And so it really pops when you're looking at it in person. And that's a piece that if I don't ever sell this piece, I won't care. I'll frame it and keep it at home because I really like it.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous.
So don't buy it.
We did have 2 misclicks on this one too, from Hallie and A. Matthew as well. So I'll set this one in the hasn't been picked up pile.
Okay.
But anybody that's interested, we will actually run through that one really quick when we get to the recap as well. But let's take a look at lot number 2. And this is from Punk Mambo issue 3. And I think it's like 1 of 5 covers. It's cover A. It's on 11 by 17. And she's flipping you the bird. And it's, again, the color choices on this thing are spectacular. I mean, it is gorgeous.
Thank you, Bill. I really like this cover a lot. I'm surprised I still have it because I have other Punk Mambo covers that are gone. Again, I don't mind because I really like it. But I was approached to draw the series and do covers, and I didn't really have the time or inclination to draw the series, but I definitely enjoyed doing the covers. And then there was going to be a second Punk Mambo series, but it was canceled because of COVID, and they haven't picked it up again. But I did do 1 cover for the first issue of that now canceled book. But this one is, I'm really happy with it too.
Oh, it's awesome. And I don't think I've ever seen a bigger moon drawn on a cover or anything for that matter. I mean, it's awesome. It is.
How you get that? You pull back with a long lens, and then when you've got you're really far away from your subject, and then you telephoto in, and the more you telephoto in on the figure, the larger the background gets. And that's how you get that in those movies where you see the writers writing with the sun behind them, sitting behind him, and it looks gigantic. So just that's how this was done.
Well, it's for something as haunting as that one is, with all the the undead at her feet, it's absolutely beautiful. But no one's claimed that one, so we'll take a look at this next Punk Mambo piece. And this one is unpublished, but it's spectacular.
That's the one.
That is amazing. It's priced at $2,000, and it's 11 by 17, as I noted on there. But yeah, this one's just fun. I mean, I think you get the color choices in here. I can see a skull, several skulls actually faint in the background around her. But man, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. And the day after I finished it, Valiant sent out the word to the freelancers to put their pencils down because they were suspending things for a while because of COVID. And I had just turned it in, so I actually did get paid for the work. And then I just waited and waited. But so far, they haven't kind of reconstituted the Punk Mambo series. I mean, she's appeared in Shadow Man and things like that. I think she appears regularly. And I did do one more Punk Mambo cover for them, but it was a Shadow Man cover. I really enjoyed doing this too. All that kind of stuff is rock stuff and things like that. It's just real.
Yeah, it is an incoming bird, as Josh mentioned. But yeah, your mic is, I think Dan might be freezing up a little bit on here. Dan, if you can still hear me, you might want to drop out and reconnect. We've only got a few more pieces to look at here, but you're kind of moving again. So I think we're good. All right, well, this one is unclaimed, lot 3 at $2,000. So we've got, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3 more pieces to look at, and then we can do a full-on recap and call it a show. So, and Dan did drop out. I'm sure he'll be popping back in here after he cools off the phone one more time. But I will go ahead and hop over to this one, even though I can't talk about the title because I didn't read Dr. Mirage. This is the cover D from issue 4. It's a Valiant comic, and it's on 11 by 17, priced at $2,300. And again, it's not on the watercolor board, but it is a heavier board, not that the smoother one that we're done with some of the commission pieces. It's got a bit of a tooth to it, but Yeah, I wish I knew more about the title. That's oh, Dan's back here. Let's see when I can bring him back into the chat. And it is pretty, Jeff. You got that right. Let's see if Dan's in the room, but he's not. Here we go. Now I think I can get him. Can you hear us, Dan? You hear me? I'm not hearing you. I see you talking though. I can. I don't know. You're not muted, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, I cannot hear you. I hate to say it. Maybe try it again. I can see you fine in the camera here, but I'm not getting a single bit of audio from the phone. Let's see. So, yep, he's gone dark again. Let's see what happens. But anyway, so lot 4, $2,300, Dr. Mirage, number 4 cover. It's cover D to that issue 4 title, and it's published by Valiant on 11x17. And yeah, I mean, you're right, Jeff, that as far as color palettes go, that one is definitely, different than pretty much every piece that we've seen so far. And I see Dan's back here, so let me see if I can get him into the chat. Oh, it's a little squelchy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, we'll do what we can.
I think because I plugged my phone back in because it was getting low on juice. So let me see if I can.
Yeah, it's really squelchy, unfortunately. We'll see if we can.
Okay, so I'm still squelchy.
Yeah, but maybe if you drop out now and reconnect, it'll fix itself. Okay. So, well, we'll look at this. I got 2 more pieces that you haven't seen. And honestly, the piece that I'm holding might be out of all of them, would I say it's my favorite? It's right up there with my favorite pieces that Dan sent me. But oh, good. Dan's popping back in here. Let's see if I can get him.
Am I better? Is better?
No, it's still squelchy. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. But I'm going to show the last 2 pieces, and then, well, at least the next one, because the next one's that really gorgeous Nocturnals piece. So okay. let me go ahead and highlight that one. This is lot 5, priced at $2,800. Now, Dan and I talked about this prior to the show, and he mentioned that it has been already used as a back cover to Nocturnals, a Nocturnals book. I don't know if you recall which one, Dan, but it's also going to be used as part of some game art that you've got currently kind of in production and might be coming out sometime in the next year or 2. But it's on 10x16. It's on a heavy board, and it's if you love Nocturnals, I mean, this is just a great piece.
Yeah, it was the back. I think it was used as a back cover for the French version of the Nocturnals Omnibus, possibly. I think it's in the French Omnibus. Dark Horse did the original one, and then there's a French version through another publisher. And but it was originally done and will be used in a game that I've developed with a game designer for Nocturnal. So, which is not something I've announced yet, really.
Well, cool. And I actually figured out a way to fix your mic.
Oh, okay.
It was something I ran into on a show a month ago, and I just tried it on yours, and it's fixed it. So
great.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
so the piece you can kind of see if you look at it where it's out in the picture. It's like there's black around it, but it's more of it's narrower than it kind of appears. You can see where the actual piece stops and this just black field begins. But the idea came from the movie poster for the film Judgment in Nuremberg. It has all the cast kind of in profile, and some of you may recognize that or not. But it was just a kind of a fun way to get them all in there. And I believe that would be the cover of the rule book for the game that we've developed. So really kind of unique for all the profiles and everybody all together like that.
It is. It's really awesome. And I did want to point out that I saw Hallie Cruz picked up lot 10, and that was the Halloween Girl piece that was on 11x14. So thank you very much, Hallie. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Hallie. Thank you.
So everybody knows, I will give the information about how to reach out to me after the show, so we can take care of invoicing everybody. But I'll go over that as soon as we're done here. And we are going to do a recap, Michael. So this piece is still out there at $2,800. Already published as a back cover to one of the French publications, and it will be used as the cover to one of the rule books in an upcoming, I believe it was a card game. Dan, is that what it was going to be?
Yeah. It's a card game with a lot of deluxe features to it. So it comes in a 9x12 or 8x10 box, and everything's fully illustrated by me. I did a ton of new illustrations for it. So the box has illustrations, the inside, and all. It's something I worked on last year for quite a bit, and now we're kind of in the process of either finding a game publisher, and if we don't, that's fine, because we plan to do it ourselves through Kickstarter. It actually has a couple of minifigures. There'll be a Halloween Girl and a Gunwitch minifigure to go with it too. They're bigger than the normal minifigures, so they're almost 2 inches tall. So that's another feature that we're playing around. Yeah, it's going to be really cool, really fun, especially if you're a Nocturnals fan. And it's an easy game to learn. You can play with your family. You can play from half an hour to an hour on it. It's not one of those ones that takes a week to learn how to play. That game might come down the road, but this one is much more family friendly and real fun.
Awesome. Well, this is lot 5 still available, $2,800. So here's the last one that we've got to show off today. It's lot 6, priced at $2,000. It is the cover to Flesh and Blood issue 2. And this one was actually penciled by Neil Vokes and then painted by Dan. And it's on 11x17. And I remember I foolishly asked Dan, so what's it like when you're coming in, painting somebody else's pencils? Why don't you tell everybody, Dan?
Well, what was your you assumed it was harder?
I thought it might be more challenging for you to do somebody else's work, and you were like, oh man, it was like, it was easier, trying to take somebody else's vision.
Really grueling to have someone do all the hard work first. No. Neil was the series artist on Flesh and Blood, which is a great Hammer love letter sort of monster series that the Monsterverse put out. And Monsterverse was a publisher who sold the name to the legendary film people, and now they do Monsterverse books, but that's a whole other separate thing. Anyway, so Carrie Gamble was one of the perpetrators, and Robert Tunnell was the writer, and Neil Vokes was the penciler, and great bunch of guys, super talented, and they hired me to do painted covers. So Neil would do these pencil drawings, probably, I don't know what size he's working on, but he would send me these prelims for what they wanted on the cover. And so it's not like he penciled a board and I painted over his pencils, but it was his prelim and his drawing that I was working from. So I was able to go in and kind of play around and have my way with certain things, but keeping to the composition and the flavor and the style and everything else. So all the important things were done by Neil. So it was not a particularly grueling thing to do. It was a lot of fun, and I'd done it before with a book that was written by Rick Remender, and drawn by my buddy John Hebink. And John Hebink had done a really tightly penciled 8.5x11 drawing that I used as the cover that I painted. I did a painted version of for the cover of a book called Doll and Creature in the 90s. And it's interesting to see these because they're not using my, they're, if you when you look at them, you go, oh, wow, that's interesting, but it's not what I would have come up with necessarily, which is not a bad thing necessarily either. So I was really happy to have the opportunity to kind of collaborate with these guys. So this is the one of the covers that I've had for a little while, and I really like it. It's tons of action and it does have a kind of Hammer feel, a sort of classic horror feel.
Yeah, it definitely does. I love the guys in the balloon, the mad science, everything. All right. Well, listen, that was the last piece of the 45 that we brought to you guys today. And I appreciate everybody, being patient while we got through it. We ran a little bit longer than we normally would, but we're going to recap what hasn't sold. There's still over 110 people watching the show live. And Dan, just so you know, we peaked at like 145 people watching live. So we might have gotten more people in here watching this than you might have gotten if you did a panel at WonderCon this weekend. So that's a good thing. But yeah,
For
so we're gonna go ahead and start things off with the recap, and I'll go do the 1 through 6s last, of course, but we'll jump ahead and look at the pieces that were done. I think only 10 of the pieces you made for the show, or maybe even around there, didn't sell. I think we have 28 sales so far, so that's pretty good. And we
That's great.
sincerely appreciate that, everybody.
Thank
All right. Oh, and I just saw a claim come in. So even before I'll start that, Andrew Hanna picked up that lot 5 Nocturnals.
Awesome.
Andrew, that's an amazing piece. I can't even begin to tell you.
I'm excited for you guys to see these pieces in person, because the scans and pictures and everything are one thing, but seeing them in person is really, I mean, I hope you'll, get the same kick out of it as I did working on them when you see them.
Exactly. And
that's
it's beautiful.
Is it Arches? Arches board.
Yeah, it's on Arches board, right?
Close.
So I'm going to make a note of that for Andrew. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate that. All right. I made my note. Okay, now we're going to start the recap. Let me just set this aside over here on the chair. And all right, we're going to lot 7. So we'll just kind of go over these quickly. And I would say this to everybody: if you're watching the show on a rerun later on tonight because you weren't able to tune in live, if you see something that we show here in the recap that I'm showing you as not being sold, please reach out to me and let me know if you're interested in it, because it may get claimed immediately after the show, but the art will be in my hands for a few extra days after the show. So you're more than welcome to kind of claim a piece, on later tonight, on Sunday, probably even into Monday, but won't be much longer than that, because I've got to get this stuff back to Dan, anything that hasn't sold. So just keep that in mind. My email address is bill@comicartfans.com.
And if you guys, if you see something and later on you it starts to kind of stick with your head and you can't get it out of your head, because that happens to me sometimes. I walk away and I'm still thinking about it. You can get in touch with Bill, and we're not going to be offended if you want to make an offer on something. I'm okay with that. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. Well, we don't have a lot to look at, but let's take a look at what we do have. So lot 7 here, and this is the first one we started off the show with. This is that Jill Sleet from Giant Killer. It's on 8x10, and it's on is it on a smoother board? Yeah, it is on a smoother board. It's priced at $850. And again, this is lot number 7. We didn't get to talk at all about this one, Dan. I think that was when you were restarting or something.
So that was done as part of when I put out a 20th anniversary oversized hardcover of the Giant Killer miniseries. I did a bunch of extra. I did like 10 new pages of story, more monsters. And then the Kickstarter had rewards, and some of the rewards were a small number of 8x10 painted pieces. And this is, I believe, on Strathmore paper. And this is one of the ones I did that I just really liked so much I held it back, and I hung on to it. And not that I would never, it wasn't that I didn't want to sell it, but I just held it back because I liked it. And this is one of those characters that's just one of my favorites. And there's a kind of cool thing that happens in the epilogue story that I added to the original series for the hardcover, which I don't want to spoil for people that haven't picked it up. But if you want to pick up the Giant Killer hardcover, you can get it through Bud's artbooks.com, and there's a cool little cameo that I don't want to spoil, that kind of brings some worlds together, which is kind of neat. Anyway, so because Jill Sleet, actually, before she was in Giant Killer, she was an FBI agent, and so in the Giant Killer story, she was an FBI agent who becomes part of this monster killer program. But originally, she was going to appear in a Nocturnal story that I was just about to do for a publisher, and then it got scrapped. But originally, she was created to be a Nocturnals character, or not a member of the character, but in that world. So anyway, but yeah, I'm fond of this piece. It's got the very bold red in the background with the gray, and so nice sort of reflected light on the backside. So it's pretty cool. Did you show the Swamp Thing too? I guess when I was out.
I did, and that one did sell.
Okay.
Actually. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did it sell or it did sell?
It did sell. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, that one. Awesome. That one went to Josh Flanders, and okay. Yeah, not a problem. So lot 7 is available. Then we have lot 9. This one's priced at $400. The Halloween Girl image. This one's on 8x10. and it's a heavier board than the like the
Yeah,
regular watercolor paper that you had.
I think it's might be Canson illustration board or something like that. I'm trying to remember, but it's not in front of me. But yeah, it's pretty quintessential Halloween girl. It's got all the elements and stuff in there, and the ghosts, and yeah, so love doing her.
All right, so that one's still out there, lot 9, priced at $400. Quick question for you, Brian M. wanted to know: do you still have a painting of Catwoman in a kimono holding an umbrella? So said it's a piece that's stuck with them.
Holding an umbrella. Oh, I'm not sure I'm connecting the dots on that one. Yeah, I'm not sure if I still have that. I'm not even sure I know what you're talking about. I did a painting of a fox, like a Japanese fox woman in a kimono, with a holding a lantern, maybe with a parasol, but I don't know about the Catwoman thing. Yeah, you might have to send Bill a JPEG of it, and then
and I could forward it on, and we could try to help you out with that for sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, so what do we got here? Next up is lot 6. It's lot 15, and this was, of course, the Atari Force piece on 11x14 smooth board, and it's Dart from Atari Force. So this one's priced at $450, and so again, lot 15. Then we've got lot 16 here. That was the Doctor Strange from 1970 with the mask, priced at $850 on 10x14 watercolor board, and absolutely one of the first pieces you sent, and definitely still one of my favorite pieces. Then let's see here. Next up is 17 and 18 were sold. So then we've got 19. That was the Jane Foster Thor. And that was on it was on the smoother board, 11x14, priced at $800. And then we've got the Black Knight on 10x14 watercolor board, and this one's priced at $900. Again, you were definitely meant to do a Black Knight. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm just. It's one of those things where, like, when you're done, you're just happy you did it. So definitely.
Okay, next up we've got lot 23, and that was the Conan piece, and then priced at $950 on 10x14 watercolor board as well. And definitely he's looking pretty badass in that one. Then what's the next one we've got? Oh, that was right, lot 25. That was the Tank Girl, and this one's on 11x13.5, priced at $1,000. Let's see. After lot 25. Sorry, I'm just going through my list here. The next one was there was a lot of these that went. So let's see. I think it's lot 33 we go to next. Yeah, that was the Yondu piece. This was on 11x13.5, priced at $900. So that one's still available. Then we've got the Orion piece, and we highlight that one. That was lot 41, priced at $950 on 10x14. And last but not least, out of these pieces that were done for the show, lot 43 is the Carnilla on slightly smaller board, 9x12, priced at $800. That one is still available as well. Then I can just quickly go back to those ones that we all just looked at. That was lot 1 still available. That was the cover priced at $2,250. Mind Management Bootleg number 2, cover B on 11x17. And we also have the Punk Mambo number 3 cover, and it's on 11x17, priced at $2,500. Then the unpublished Punk Mambo 2.1 cover on 11x17, lot 3, priced at $2,000. And we got lot 4. That was the Dr. Mirage number 4 cover, published by Valiant. It's on 11x17, priced at $2,300. And finally, that the Neil Vokes kind of pencil piece that you did for Flesh and Blood number 2 on 11x17, priced at $2,000. So that recaps everything that we still have available. And as Dan mentioned, if there's something that you're interested in, you're more than welcome to submit an offer. You can email it to me, bill@comicartfans.com. Let me go through the logistics on stuff if you weren't here at the beginning of the sale. Now that you've claimed a piece, and we've got several people that claimed, and we appreciate each and every one of you, please email me at bill@comicartfans.com. Let me know which artworks you've claimed. Please include your mailing address when you do that too, just so I have it on hand already. And then, mention your YouTube handle if you're new to the show too, just so I can kind of have that to reference back to. I need to have payment made within 48 hours of the invoice. There's no fees if you go with Zelle, or if we can work out something else like a check in the mail really quickly, or dropping cash off at a, remote location somewhere. But I don't recommend that. If you do go the PayPal or credit card way, we do have a service fee of 4% for US and 5.5% for international. And as a reminder, that shipping and handling was separate from all of this. You can combine, and a lot of people bought multiple pieces. Domestic shipping is $30 and international is $65. So there, I think that covers it all, Dan. And
thank you so much, everybody. I mean, again, but am I still, can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's a little stuttery, but it's okay. Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Damn.
No, but go ahead. Say what you like. Yeah, you were saying it. We were getting it.
So, I come into these things with very low expectations, because you never know what's going to happen. And I'm just glad that so many of the pieces that I enjoy doing connected with so many of you. And thank you for coming on and staying with us. And we'll do this again.
Absolutely. I mean, this was a lot of fun, Dan. And the thing is, maybe next time we won't have so many pieces. We could actually talk a little bit more.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was hoping to chat with you a bit, about some other aspects of your career and everything. But we'll save that for the next time. And if not, we'll maybe one day we do a show where we just talk and we don't sell any art. I'd enjoy doing that as well, if you had time for something like that in your studio. Oh man. So listen, everybody, thank you so much.
Sure.
It's been a lot of fun.
Sure.
We sincerely appreciate your support today.
Yes,
please email
definitely.
me. And again, Dan, and enjoy the rest of your weekend at WonderCon, and maybe you'll see Dan there if you're in the area. But again, everybody else, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for tuning in and picking up artwork tonight.
Yeah.